Guys, we are super excited to announce our new partnership with SaberSim. For those of you who aren't familiar, SaberSim is a DFS optimizer and projection system used by some of the top DFS players in the industry. It provides some of the best ownership and scoring projections on the market, and now you will have a chance to bundle it with an RPS subscription for our low price. For a limited time only, you'll get both RunPure's great content along with the SaberSim product and projections, typically valued over $190 a month, combined for our low cost just by using the promo code SABER15BIG-T. How dope of a deal is this?
This is going to be the best deal in the industry. It's going to get you all the content on the site and the optimizer. So you got a nice intro price. This also includes the bet side, which we have one of the best bets teams in the industry. Also, the optimizer is going to be accessed directly on the site now. And eventually, we're even going to have the core plays directly on the optimizer within the next couple of weeks. So another really nice bonus.
All right, so why don't you show us how quick you can knock out over 150 lineups using the SaberSim optimizer?
Yeah, this optimizer is going to be very nice on the site. Tons of new options. If you want to look at the screen, we got SaberSim projections, RPS projections right next to each other. You have options like being able to do the average of both, which is nice. Obviously, I like the RunPure projections, but the SaberSim projections are awesome too, and it gives you a nice balance between the two to form some of your own opinions, which I love to do. As you scroll to the right, you got other stuff like ownership projections, which comes from SaberSim. Eventually, we might have more of our stuff on the site too, but SaberSims are awesome. Gives you another data point when you're building lineups. And then as you work your way to the right, we got the ability to see upside of players. 85th percentile, 99th percentile. You can see the upside of some of these guys. And then just to prove the point, you can build 150 lineups very quickly. Go up here to build lineups. Gives you a bunch of cool options that we'll go through as we start getting used to this and putting content out. But you got GPP, cash, multiplier, satellite option. For this, we're just going to do GPP. I'm going to show you how quick we can make 150 teams. But also, you got single entry in here, 3 max, 20 max. Just a ton of cool options to show you guys as we get going. How many entrants are in the field you're playing, put that in there. Bunch of cool stuff like correlation, ownership, variance with the sims. Tons of stuff that you're going to be able to use. I'm going to run 150 teams here and show you guys just how quickly you can run 150 with this optimizer. So as you can see, 150 teams took me about 30 seconds. And once you have more time, you can play around with the numbers, really get them where you want them. But I was just trying to show how convenient it is. You got your optimal team right here. Shows you how much salary you used, projected score, SaberSim score, which kind of shows you your upside type thing. Tons of stuff on here. Total ownership, 267%. So a chalky team right there. But again, as we get more comfortable with the system, you'll be able to tinker a lot more. And tons of stuff up here too. If you want to play an upside team, you can click 99th percentile. It's going to run again for you. Give you an upside team here, more upside. Tons of options though. As we get going, we're going to do tons of content. All of our shows are going to be using this. I'm going to be using it personally to build my tournament teams. Super excited to get going with SaberSim and get this partnership going to make the content we do even better going forward.
And just a reminder, you can access all the RunPure premium content for all sports, along with SaberSim optimizer and projection system for the low monthly price for a limited time. Just use the promo code SABER15 while signing up to get this deal. Don't wait, sign up now, and of course, let's RunPure.
What is up? We got a brand new crew today because we got Titledtown, like always, on these RunPure shows. Our guy, all the MMA knowledge you could need. He's on here with me, but usually he's on here with Draft Cheat and Joey Work, our other two MMA guys. But we had to go to the bullpen. And to be honest, well, first of all, I don't know dick about MMA, but I got the two Wright guys on here with me. We got a special guest, Draft Cheat's father, actually, MadLab, one of the best MMA guys I've known. He's made me tons of money over the last couple years, just like Titledtown, two of my favorites. But I got to start with the special guest, MadLab, DC's father. What's going on today, my man?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on. DC, I'm very disappointed in you. This is a public service announcement. How you did not show up for this show is a real puss move. You should have been on this show, brother.
It would be the best if he came on here and didn't know you were on here. I still remember when this is going to get us a little sidetracked right out of the gate, but you and Tommy were going to show up at his house in Denver, ready to whoop on him. He didn't want that smoke, I don't think, MadLab.
Dude, I was so good to that kid. I remember when he was doing that whole boxing thing with a couple
with
guys.
Randone.
Yeah, he wanted to box everybody. I even offered him to come stay with me for like 2 weeks. I was going to show him like some boxing techniques and stuff like that. I was so nice to that kid, helping him with his diet, and then he went in on me. DC, I haven't forgotten that, by the way.
You got a long memory. You won't forget that stuff. That's too good. Titledtown, big card tonight. I know you're excited. What's going on, my man?
It's nice. Big T hosting is not a scene I really expected to see. So it's nice having you hosting in the one seat. Big card, a lot of fun. Appreciate MadLab hopping on. He's been in the industry for a long time. I followed you, got me into MMA too. So if you haven't found his content, MadLab, let him know where you can find it at. Appreciate you hanging on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on very much so. I respect you guys a lot, especially Big T, man. I've been following you for a long time. You've always been, I always say you're one of the good guys in the industry. So thanks for having me on. You can find me at MadLab MMA on Twitter, and my website is themadlabmma.com. We pretty much just give, all content for combat sports, boxing, MMA, the whole game. Pretty much what you do, Zach.
Some of the best stuff too, just from the beginning, betting wise. I always like the content because I obviously bet and DFS. So I love the content where you give it from both sides like MadLab does. Good breakdowns, betting wise and DFS wise, just because sometimes it's different. Like Title says on our end on the MMA stuff, sometimes you could love a bet at plus 220 or something that isn't a good play DFS wise, and vice versa. Sometimes a favorite's a great bet. Blah, blah, blah. You guys know the story. I don't know that much about MMA, but I'm going to kick it to these guys. We're going to find a bunch of winners.
Don't sell yourself short. You've been playing MMA every week for over a year now. So You're in the streets. I
didn't say I can't win at it, but I know who to soak the info from. I go to my guys here, MadLab, Titledtown. It's not because I know it. I'll tell you that much. I have played every week since COVID though. I love it. And it's because of these guys though. So let's hop in here. I'll do my best to kick it back and forth. What's our opener here? Is it this Robertson? First of all, you think I know nothing. Wait till I pronounce some of these damn names as we go through. But what's this first one? We got Gillian Robertson and Priscilla Cachoeira. Robertson's minus 350. Titledtown, I'll start with you out of the gate. What do you got in this one?
Yeah, Robertson, Cachoeira. I mean, this is going to be a fun one to start off the card. It's very rare you see a minus 200 women's fight to start it off at flyweight. It's a clash of styles, so it's pretty easy. Gillian Robertson wants to take this fight to the ground. Good takedown. She has good BJJ. Cachoeira, on the other hand, she wants to keep it standing. She has 2 KOs in her last 2 fights. Now, they aren't very good names, Mazzani and Shanna Dobson, but she has power. They call her Zombie Girl because she'll just walk through, she'll take shots, and she's not afraid to take one to give one, and she usually has more power. But I'm not worried about that in this fight. Robertson's not going to pose any problems on the feet, doesn't really throw volume. But if Robertson gets it to the ground, she's going to look like a minus 350 favorite. She probably will eventually find a sub. Cachoeira doesn't have much to offer off her back. But every fight starts standing. If Robertson can't get this fight to the mat early, she's going to be in for some trouble at the Cachoeira. I think the plus 650 inside the distance, I think there's value on that line. So I hit it earlier in the week. I think there's a little value there. Obviously, that's not the most likely outcome. It's plus 650 for a reason. But on the feet, she definitely has the advantage. She has power, she's shown. I like this fight a lot for DFS. 9,300 for Robertson. No one's really going to play her in the upper tier with the Sean O'Malley's, Nunes, Silva's. There's a bunch of upper tier people. So I think she gets overlooked. she absolutely could break the slate, takedowns, top control, submission. And then Cachoeira at 6,900 too. I got to have some interest there. I know it'll be overweight because on the field or on the feet, she has KO power. So good fight to kick off the card. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting card too, just because I always like these cards where you got a main event that obviously is going to be a total banger, but both guys, sometimes they're like huge prices on the main event where the favorite's 9,400, 9,500. This fight, though, you got obviously more level pricing, 86 and 76, which lets you go up to some of the favorites like this first one that will be lower owned just because, like Title said, there's just other stuff to pay up there that have better closing odds. MadLab, what do you got in this one?
Yeah, I like Zach. I like what you said. You want me to call you Titledtown or Zach?
Whatever works for you. Whatever works.
I like what you said, about Robertson probably being a little lesser owned. I tell my guys all the time, I say, like, especially cards like this that are very heavy with a lot of casuals that come in because they like the bigger cards. They're going to go after the bigger names up in the 9K bracket. They're going to go after all those names. That's what they like, the O'Malleys and stuff like that, where it kind of leaves these fighters like Robertson as outliers, and the thing with her is obviously we know what she wants to do. She wants to take this to the ground and she wants to grapple. And the tough thing a lot of times when you see some of these fighters, sometimes you can't gauge what they want to do. You get guys that fall in love with their striking after one knockout, even though their grappling pedigree got them there. For some reason, the only thing I don't like about her is Dim Thomas really just has never evolved her game. It's like the black belt under him is all, and that's all he wants to win and lose by, and that's fine. But you have to eventually evolve your game. You have to have some kind of evolution, and she just hasn't really shown me that. She's shown me that when she gets it to the ground, she can do a lot of work. She's very slippery, but she's not the biggest. She's not the strongest. She doesn't have the greatest wrestling. She doesn't really have a lot of trip takedowns in her arsenal. So like you said, the fight always does stay standing. But outside of the standing, Cachoeira, that's really all she has. So if you're giving me the opportunity of 15 minutes of Jillian Robertson getting it to the ground, especially if she gets it to the ground early when she's still dry, I agree with you. I think that inside the distance is nice for her. But if she stays standing, like I said, we could be on the edge of our seats, really shitting in our pants on this one, because outside of that, I don't think Jillian Robertson has much for Cachoeira on the feet. But I agree with you. I think that she eventually finds it to the ground, get some top control, maybe gets a sub, or maybe just controls the pace of the round to earn those rounds and get the decision. But I'm on the same side as you guys.
So one of the nice dynamics about this show is just, like I said, I don't know a ton. You guys do. I can kind of give some of the input just from listening to you guys. And it's one of the things I think I'm good at, soaking in the info from people that are actually knowledgeable and using it. And yeah, I mean, 9,300 for Robertson, it looks like minus 200 or so to finish inside the distance. If you're going to give me that low owned, and you guys are both telling me if we get this to the carpet that we're going to just roll, I love that. I'm gonna move her up, but I do agree. I don't always hedge on a lot of these, but 6,900 on this card. Who knows? Maybe, I mean, she can knock her out if she catches her, right? Is that what both of you were saying? Who knows? Take a stab, a little stab on Cachoeira too, maybe. So.
And people are going to want to go Nunes. And like, if you go, like, there are pay ups. So people are going to naturally be punting one of these people in a lot of lineups. I think Cachoeira should be in the pool with the path. But yeah.
How many times does this happen too, Title, where the fight starts, or I mean, the fight night starts, everyone's excited, and you see this 6,900 knockout right out of the gate that sets up the whole night. All of a sudden, if you get that bank right out of the gate and the 6,900 dog somehow wins, then I mean, you're
last week, Morales last week was 8% in that $18. And I had a ton of smoke. I didn't see the ownership going like that, but I mean, I was live for the last fight because I get some Morales 8%. It's not hard to get over that. And the whole night starts off. So yeah, it should be a fun one. I mean, we've seen these openers on these pay-per-views too, get a lot of fun. The crowd gets into it a little bit and it gets exciting. So
they kind of set it up, don't they? Where they want the first banger just to get people excited, get a banger out of the gate, right?
You know what I tell, a lot of people too with this, you got to remember at the end of the day, UFC is a business, right? They structure it as such. So if you really look at the track record, I always tell people, like, you got to be careful with the first fight, just for the mere fact that obviously if it loses and you roll in on a certain fighter, your night's over. So, that's kind of the shitty end of it. The other end of it is I look at it as kind of a ladder. So basically in my experiences is when you see some of these guys, you're going to have, they match up some banger fights, but a lot of these guys are holding on by the last rung of the ladder before they get their pink slip. It's almost like a do or die fight for them. So when you have a situation like that, when you got two guys against the wall, like Lou Smoker, for some reason, he's on the chopping block now. You know what I mean? So they start losing faith in you. You'll see these guys start dropping farther down on the card. And usually that first fight night, the first fight of the card, a lot of times one of these guys are they have their pink slip written out and it's just waiting to be signed. So you got to be careful, but also these are sometimes fights you want to move in on because they're in desperation mode.
Very good point. Last point, I'm going to bring Leone in chat made a good point. Cachoeira missed weight by 4 pounds. And to be honest, as a backer that was inside the distance early in the week, I'm happy with that miss because a little more power, she's going to be much bigger, which can help her stuff the takedowns too. So good point by Leone in chat, 4 pound miss. It's a miss that I like as a Cachoeira, a little inside the distance backer.
Sometimes they do it on purpose.
Yep. They don't want to make that extra cut that drains them more. So
they'd rather take the cut and pay and get the W and secure their position than it's a chess move.
Yep.
I love it. It seems like the perfect fight to kind of go overweight on both fighters out of the gate, especially if they're only 15 to 20% each. Go a little higher on both of them. I think as we go through, we can make more decisions though. Next fight. Oh, we got Randy Costa, Tony Kelley. Costa minus 195. I remember this bastard. He hurt me a few times, but Costa minus 195, Kelley plus 165. Looks like minus 250 inside the distance. I'll start with you this time, MadLab. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I don't got too much to say about this one. The thing with Costa here is if you look at his pedigree and what he's done, he's come into the UFC. He fought Adrian Yanez, who I'm super high on. I come from a boxing background, so the first thing I look at as fighters when I watch their boxing, I watch their feet. I see if how they're sitting on their feet, if they're flat-footed, if they're swiveling their feet as they're throwing their punches. I look at all their mechanics, and this kid has nearly seamless mechanics when it comes to striking. So if you're going to stand on the feet with this kid and you're going to compete with him like Costa did, that's pretty impressive. So even though he doesn't have the thickest resume, if you look at him, he only has, Zach, how many fights does he have? Like 4 to 6 fights?
Yeah, he's 6-2.
Yeah, he's on minimum amount of fights, but he came in there and he put it on Yanez that first round. And I was all over Yanez that fight, and I was shitting in my pants. And I know a lot of people that were backing Yanez were too. The problem with that is when you're that raw, he showed us he has the talent, but when you're that raw and you can't decipher where your conditioning is at that point, that's dangerous. So basically you have the technique, but you're dumping your load because you don't even know yourself as far as from a conditioning perspective, how much you have in a tank. A big part of fighting is understanding that conditioning is predominantly genetic. You can make yourself into the best version of you, but just genetically, some people are going to have better conditioning than other people. It's just the way it is. Costa is still, the question mark is out with him. Is it because he can't really dial in his conditioning yet, or is it because he just isn't really conditioned genetically? So that's the thing that fears me here. I know he's got the talent to win this fight. This is a fight for me where he's going to either win this fight or he's going to lose this fight. Kelley's not going to beat him. And I think that this is all predicated on if he dialed in and measured his conditioning, either steps back a little bit or works on his conditioning a little bit more. Can he last the 50 minutes? If he can, I think Costa, can pretty much run away with this fight. So I'm picking Costa in this fight, but the line to me pulls me back a little bit. But there is upside for a knockout. So like Big T said earlier, sometimes the betting line doesn't equate to the DraftKings line. So there is upside for me, with Kelley here. But I'm going to tell you right now, if he puts it on Kelley and Kelley lasts that round and a half, you could be, you're sitting on the edge of your seat wondering if he's going to last. So it's kind of a really high risk, high reward play. But to me, Costa, like I said, it all boils down to that whole thing when you're going for the names. A lot of people might disregard him a little bit. So I don't know how high owned he's going to be at 9,000. And at the upside he does have to possibly win inside the distance. I think he's a fair play.
Yeah, just eyeballing the line too. I mean, 9K fighter, Costa, only minus 195 right now. Definitely feels like one of those fights where Costa might not get that much ownership either. To me, I know the finish odds are high at minus 250, but people like big favorites on these cards, and everyone's going to want to play Nunes. So I don't know. I don't know if he's going to get that much ownership, especially at that price. But Title, what do you think? Kelley as a kind of short dog with a minus 250 finish odds in this fight. What do you think of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, Costa's going to he's not going to be as low as Robertson or anything,
Yeah.
but O'Malley's right there, 100 more. And you talked about Nunes, and there's Poirier if you're on that side. So, yeah, I'm not expecting crazy ownership. I agree with pretty much everything MadLab said. I mean, you look at what Costa's done. He's 6-2 in the pro fights. His 6 knockouts have all came in the first round. His 2 losses have both come in the second round. He's been a 1-round fighter. I want to think, because he's 27, he's young in his MMA career, I want to think he's been working on his pace and being composed and not just letting out the whole gas tank in the first round. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a more composed Costa in this one, which we don't necessarily want when it comes to DFS. So I'm a little worried about that, but we haven't seen that at all yet. I think Costa, I mean, what he did to Adrian Yanez in the first round, I'm with MadLab. I'm very high on Adrian Yanez, as most of you know, had him in that fight, and it definitely was scary in the first round. I mean, Costa put it on him. He outlanded him 57-33. That jab was busting open his face. He looked really, really good. Kelley isn't anywhere near Adrian Yanez's potential and skill. So if Costa does that in the first round, Kelley might be all she wrote. So Kelley needs to survive. I like him at 7,200 because if Costa comes out that way, he gasses in the first round. We know Kelley would take over in the second and third round. Anyone can against Costa when he does that. But I'm a little nervous we see a little different Costa after what we saw last fight and his previous fights. I mean, if you're coaching him, like, you got to fix his cardio, and you can't throw 57 significant strikes in the first round when he knows that he can't sustain that pace, like a Sean O'Malley we saw last fight and stuff. So minus 250 to end inside the distance. 11 of the 14 fights are supposed to end inside the distance. I'm trusting the talent and the skill, which I've seen in Costa, to get it done. But yeah, I'm not going to full fade Kelley, because we know second round, if this fight somehow gets to the third round, I'm scared.
I'm scared to take Costa again, just to be honest. When this dude gets out of that, like you guys already said, I mean, I'm just repeating it, but man, I had him I've had him every fight, I think. I want to say, just looking
You had him against Yanez?
Yeah, he did. He was chirping me.
And it was miserable too. Like, I just, he pissed me off. I mean, he just, when his wad is done, I don't know if I can come back with them on this short price, but I agree. I mean, minus 250. Can he plug the holes? That was my question. He looks so bad to me after that first burst.
But you know, some of these guys have something called adrenaline dumps too, you know, and I know, like, guys like Cowboy Cerrone, he actually went to see a sports therapist years ago, because this guy would win fights. And then when he hit a big spot, the guy just historically would lose fights. And it's not the talent level. We know how talented he is. It's because he gets these adrenaline dumps, and some fighters are just prone to have adrenaline dumps, and they either got to be rewired or they ignore it. So that can be an issue too. Like I said, he's still so raw. There's still so much that we still need to see from him before we can have like kind of a track record or a trajectory which way his fights go. But there could be an issue there too with an adrenaline dump, you know.
I think that's go ahead.
Well, I was just going to if Costa did what he did to Yanez in that first round, he does that in this fight to Kelley. Personally, I think Kelley's out of there in the first. He gets it done. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. That's why the upside is there for him. But like I said, it's almost like what happened with Santos last week.
Yeah, that was brutal.
I said to everybody, when he looked up at the ref as he was punching him, I said,
it was over.
He did that out of fear.
Yeah.
He knew he was emptying his tank, and he knew if this fight went to the second round, he was done.
I can't believe that went on personally, but I mean, it was the right call.
That was a wild fight.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Up there. I agree with what MadLab said, though. I think that's a great point, because it kind of rings true with me with Costa, where he just shoots his wad, that adrenaline. I don't know if you can fix that, really, even with a therapist. Like, sure, you could, I guess. You have to rewire your entire system, though. He just gets too amped up. And I mean, I've seen a few fighters, again, I don't know as much as you guys, but sometimes these guys, they just can't calm themselves down enough to keep themselves in check at all. So be an interesting fight, though. I mean, I love these two out of the gate. Let's move to the next one. We got Ryan Hall. Oh, this is my other boy title was talking about. Minus 190 versus Derek Minner, plus 160. We got minus 200 inside the distance, it looks like, because we just talked about it last night. Title, talk to me about this fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't watch MMA too much and your first card was pretty much Dustin Poirier McGregor too, which we have a couple names on this card that was on that. And that was your first time seeing Ryan Hall fight. There's no way you click that name again at 8,900. And Big T, I think, is in that boat. The thing is, it's a completely different matchup. I mean, this is kind of similar to what I was saying in the playbook to Jamal Hill and Jimmy Crute last week, where everyone was off Jamal Hill. He got subbed by Paul Craig. It was poor IQ. He fouled on the ground, which is dumb. But we still know Jamal Hill has skills, and on the feet, he's dangerous. And what he did at Crute was pretty nice. But Ryan Hall, he's not fighting Ilia Topuria again. Like, that's one of the baddest dudes there is. Talk about prospects. He's going to be around for a long time. Derek Minner is... talk about blowing your load too. This guy blows his load after a round and a half, which could be a problem. His record 26-12. He has 22 wins by submission, 8 losses by submission. That shows, I mean, he's a power grappler. What he did to Charles Rosa 2 fights ago was very impressive. But Charles Rosa shows he has nothing off his back. Is Derek Minner going to follow Ryan Hall to the ground? He's a wizard on the mat. I mean, that's his nickname. I cannot picture Minner going to the ground with Ryan Hall and being safe with it. If Ryan Hall gets us to the mat once, Imanari rolls, grabs a leg, I think that can be all she wrote. On the feet, I don't see Derek Minner knocking out Ryan Hall or throwing an obscene amount of volume and just winning it that way. So I see no upside at 7,300 for Derek Minner personally. I'm not going to play him. As far as Ryan Hall, I think a submission, if he gets him on the ground once, I think that could be all she wrote. There's levels to grappling. Ryan Hall is on that level. 8,900 though, if it's not in the first round, I expect a very boring first round. If it's in the second round, he gets a submission, that might only be 80 points, which is a little scary, but I think he goes overlooked in this range. I think he's low owned. I'm going to have pieces. He's plus 100 to finish the fight. I think he only needs to get on the mat once or grab a leg once, and it could be all she wrote. I don't like the upside for Minner. So give me Hall in this fight.
MadLab, I remember this fight. I've watched every UFC since COVID, and this might have been the most embarrassing fight I've ever seen. Whatever that last fight, I don't even remember who he was fighting, but my God, he just tried to heel hook the dude for however long the damn fight went. Talk to me about this fight.
You know who he reminds me of? You ever see Bloodsport?
I don't think so.
With Van Damme, watch. There's a guy.
I have seen that. Now that you said it, I know exactly what you're talking about. Is the funny part
on the ground, right?
Yeah.
So this is an interesting spot for him, man. Because I always say all the time, once you leave that 9, like everybody goes right up to the 9,000 range. Once you leave that, there's always like kind of like an abortion for the 89, 88, 8,700 guys. Because they think, well, I can get for another couple $100, I can get this one. And this is a spot where like a lot of people are turned off by him. And I was repulsed by him, from his last thing. And I picked him, and I was crazy that I picked him. I was so far off the mark. But the thing with this is, I tell people all the time, you can't go too far back. A lot of people have that problem. They look at somebody's record, they say he's 26 and so with 22 submissions, and they take that and they run with it. Wow, this guy's got 22 submissions. But the fact of the matter is, majority of those submissions came on the regional circuit. A lot of those submissions came with guys that have losing records, that have maybe fought 2-3 fights on the regional scene, and that's it. So it's almost like anything else. If the kid's in the UFC, which he is now, he's obviously far and away better than these guys. It's almost like a black belt rolling with a white belt. And the thing with the grappling is you got to look at Ryan Hall's a different animal. This is a 10-time gold medalist nationally and internationally. The guy's grappling is on the level really with like a Damian Maia, like it's very Damian Maia-esque, once you're on that level. And he also adds a very creative way to him, almost like a Hoist Gracie style meets Eddie Bravo. He's got that 10th planet system, real herky-jerky, and it's very awkward. So we know what he's good at. He knows what he's good at. He's 36 years old. You're not going to, teach an old dog new tricks. He knows that. He has no striking. You can't just teach striking overnight. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to live and die with my grappling. People talk about, the layoff. I understand with the layoff, but the really, when they talk about timing is more for striking. Strikers really need the timing. Grapplers don't need timing that much. If they grab a limb, it's instinct. They know where to go. So, with this fight here, the question is Minner's instincts going to take over? We know he's a grappler. He likes to grapple. You could say till you're blue in the face, I got a blueprint and I'm going to stay on my feet and I'm going to stay away. But then once the fight happens, once you're in the cage doors are locked, your instinct starts to take over. So if he does knock Ryan Hall down, chances are he's probably going to jump into his guard. It's just instinctual that you do it. Maybe when he does it, he'll say, I made a mistake. But instinctually, you always go back to what you're comfortable with. I think he has paths to win this fight. I'm not going to say he doesn't have a path to win this fight. If this stays standing, if he is smart, I don't see Ryan Hall with any kind of striking pedigree. I mean, he's got like a Chase Hooper striking pedigree. Like, it's just terrible, you know. But the minute he gets a limb, if he has any type of ballsy way about him where he thinks he's actually going to be able to grapple with Ryan Hall, I can assure you guys that there is not a chance in hell that this kid will win a transition, will get any kind of long-term control on him. Ryan Hall will grab a limb and submit him. So, you know, I just don't trust him that much, but I agree with you, Zach, that I think that if he does snatch a limb in 15 minutes, he's going to end up submitting him at some point. What he does after that, I don't know. Like, whoever he fights, he's very matchup predicated. But I think for somebody like Minner, who's predominantly grappler, not the greatest striker, does end up blowing his load, you know, halfway through the fight. I think it's a good spot for Hall, like a makeup spot for him. I think he should win the fight, and I'm hoping that he gets a submission because I like his price at 8,900 if he does.
So yeah, not really knowing the scoring as well. This fight, first of all, seems like a lock to me betting wise, and only minus 190. What's the like sub odds? Title? What's the sub odds for him?
Let's see. It's plus 130. It's plus 100 to finish. So I don't know why they
plus 130 to sub him.
Plus 130, yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm gonna
150
bet that.
Plus 150 on FanDuel. You can get
on
better.
FanDuel right now. 150.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm gonna write that down for my.
You got to remember too, Vegas doesn't look at things like me and Zach look at things.
Yeah,
you know, they really do look at the records. And if you look at Ryan Hall, if you look at Derek Minner, if you really think about it on paper, he looks like the better submission artist. If you look at Ryan Hall, his submissions don't equate to his talent.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
I love it.
There's a lot of factors involved there.
I love it. I'm going to write that down. That's going to be my first bet. But to take it back to DFS, kind of like I started the show, so can he score enough for me? Title, like if he gets a sub, if he subs him in the first round, like what kind of scoring am I looking at?
Well, is he going to get the sub by rolling around with a couple of
his normal little stupid ass heel hook things, and then he gets him. What's he going to score for me?
I mean, that literally could be a 92. I mean, we've 90? Seen that happen. We've seen that happen.
Is he ever getting like a $120 or something for me?
Well, here's the thing. I do something called current market values on the site. So if you look at Ryan Hall, in 5 fights, he's 0 of 5. He hit 100+ points 0 of 5 times. His current market value at 8,900. That's what your current market value is?
Yeah, I like this.
He's only hitting at 1 of 5. So if you look at that, you know, for the time he's under the UFC umbrella, he's really only hitting at a 20% clip at that current market value. So if that's holds any water to you guys.
No, it makes a lot of sense. Just because this could for sure be a fight that you just bet. I do want some DFS just because you never know what the scoring is going to be in a night anyways. Tons
plus
of times
225.
Plus
225 first round. So the first round, you're guaranteed 90 plus, 8,900. I'll be a little lower on. I'm not going to fully evade Ryan. No, and the thing is, like, somehow he gets a takedown, and then he gets a little control time and stuff like that. Like, but if it's out of the first round,
to fade him for sure.
I don't want him. Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I was just plus 225. Looking at the first round prop makes a lot of sense because 90 is the lowest you could score there.
He's going to win for us, though. There's one thing. This might be my lock of the day. We'll revisit as we go through, but he's going to win for sure today.
Never thought I'd hear you.
He had one of the shittiest performances of all time. And Big T's calling him the lock of the day.
It's the lock. I know it's a lock. I feel very good about him.
Never thought I'd
I swear to God, if he does that same thing and loses today, I'm going to be so pissed. All right, let's keep it moving. We got, looks like a little bit of a boring one here. We got Miranda Maverick minus 140, Aaron Blanchfield plus 120. Looks a little rough, but MadLab, what do we got? We got anything here?
You know, I don't like that they made this fight. I don't like when the UFC does this. I think this fight could have waited. These are 2 girls that are extremely talented. They are the future of the division. You got Blanchfield, who's actually trains in my town where I'm from in New Jersey, so I'm very, very well versed with her. She trains Silver Fox Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under this guy called Paiva, who's a very, very underrated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructor. And to have your black belt, you know, under him at her age is is quite the accomplishment. She showed in her last fight, she's got a lot of volume. Her Brazilian jiu-jitsu, she really she hasn't shown it yet. People don't know how well versed this girl is on the ground. You know, and then on the flip side, you got Miranda Maverick, who I'm very high on. And the one thing that goes a long way with me is intelligence. Outside of the cage, it's so important to me that I've trained people who really weren't that intelligent, that just don't absorb the things that I'm saying. And then you train people that are intelligent, that really get it. They understand it, they wire it together, and they make it work. Miranda Maverick is that girl. She's the type of girl that if you take two versions of her, an educated version and a non-educated version, she's going to be able to really tap that ceiling higher because she gets it. She understands it. She can translate it. That's Miranda Maverick. She's very strong. She's got like farm girl strength. So when she gets a hold of you in the clinch and stuff like that, it's very, very hard to kind of break loose. The thing that makes me nervous about this fight is Blanchfield they're both very young, but Blanchfield, Maverick is stronger and more mature and more grown into her body for her age. At 24 years old, this girl is really, really just a tough girl. Blanchfield, to me, is the better fighter. She's the more well-rounded fighter. I think she's got the better Brazilian jiu-jitsu, probably the better wrestling, and the striking. She's shown the volume that she spits out. When Miranda Maverick kind of sits back a little bit, you know, she'll wait for things to come to her, and she knows that she's stronger than most of these girls, and she utilizes her strength. I just think Maverick is a little bit more groomed, and they're both very raw, and this fight can go either way. But I just think she's a little bit more groomed at this point. I think that the strength and the power that she does have will be able to nullify some things. If Blanchfield really starts getting her volume off, she can kind of just wet blanket her, push her against the cage, and kind of stall her there. It's a super close fight. I think that Blanchfield, if she wins, she's probably going to score more on her end. But I am picking Maverick on this side. I just think, like I said, she's been there a little more. She's been under the lights a little bit more. Even though she's only 3 years older, I just think she's a little bit more mature, ahead of her time. I just don't like that they're doing it to Blanchfield, to both ladies, because somebody's got to lose, and I don't think they should be matching these girls up right now. So the fight can go either way, but I'm leaning Maverick in this one just because I think she's a little bit more groomed than Blanchfield is as of now.
Yeah, so before I kick it to Title, this is my one nitpick with Title when he does these content, and I'm finally on a show to call him out about it. He always just naturally fades these fights. Before I even pull the freaking playbook up, I know he fades. And these fights, sometimes they bomb it and they get like 120, and then the whole chat tilts, and I have to listen to the whole chat that freaking follows Title every time to tilt when one of these guys score. Title, stop fading these fights just because it's plus 200. Now tell me what you think about this fight.
You got to fade some fights. I mean,
don't just always fade the biggest odds to finish, though.
So it's a coin flip fight right here. So you have to first pick the winner, and that's already is MadLab. It's
I know the winner though. MadLab I already got my second winner of the day. I'm going to give winners on this show while you guys give the info. Blanchfield is the winner today, boys.
So you're going against me?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you mean?
I listened to what you were saying though. Blanchfield was better. Okay. I listened to it. You didn't say Blanchfield was going to lose for sure.
No, I said it's a coin flip fight.
Yeah, you sold me on it though without realizing you sold me. I love Blanchfield in this fight.
So the thing is, so if you like Blanchfield, you can play some Blanchfield because she's 7,800. You have 600 decrease, and
she's gonna score 120 tonight for me. Title.
I'll take the under. Anyway, okay, valid comment. anyway, I mean, so yeah, you're right, and of course I have my flaws in how I do it. I have a routine.
I'm plugging one league for you, Title. You've made me so much money. Just please stop full fading just because it's plus 200.
So yeah, that is part of why I have it. You have to fade some fights. It's plus 11 of 14 fights are supposed to finish. This fight's the least.
But the difference,
likely.
So just let me explain the other side from my perspective. Like plus 200 is not that different than like minus 180, especially in a one fight sample.
No,
and you get lower ownership because of it, because everyone looks at the same odds.
The thing is, what I also wrote is I don't think we get the low ownership in this fight. I think I think there is ownership in this fight, which is another part of the reason. I mean, yes, if so, just say only 4 fights finish on this card. I think this fight is probably going to be optimal. If Blanchfield wins, I think there's a good chance because I think the pace will be there. They can mix it up on the ground a little bit, the volume. The thing is, my pick is Maverick. I haven't bet against her yet in the UFC. I just think I trust her a little more. The 3 years, I think a little bit the strength, as MadLab was saying, I just feel a little more comfortable with her. She got absolutely robbed last fight against Macy Barber.
She was minus 2,000. I remember it at the end of the fight.
Ask me about that because I thought she got robbed against Barber.
Oh, it wasn't even. It was one of the, and I was all over Maverick. I faded Bart like it. I watched it over too. Like, there's no way I'm biased on it. Like, completely highway robbery. I was shocked. Still,
you weren't biased at all because I have no bias, and she definitely got robbed big time. It was a terrible ruling.
Awful. Yeah, it was clearly 1, 2, and then 3 was Barb. Anyway, again, why you make that fight? That's another prospect in this division that you're talking about. Don't know why they made this. It's a coin flip fight, so then I have to pick the winner. I don't think it finishes, but yes, if only 4 fights finish, 5 fights finish, then yes, I think Blanchfield makes sense. Got to fade some fights. There's another mid-tier fight I'm going to fully fade too, which gets me overweight on certain mid-tier fights, and then the stars and scrubs builds too. So I eliminate routes that I know some other people are going to go to. I wouldn't hate if you play Blanchfield. I think Blanchfield's the better play than Maverick, even though my pick is Maverick to win because of the pricing, because I think the ceiling, I agree with MadLab. So I'm saying Maverick by decision. I'm not going to have this fight really. I mean, I play 20. Single entry, 150 and all that stuff, but I make the playbook for 20 and less since that's what more people do. I'm not going to play it, but I hear what you're saying for sure. Plus 200, I even put it later in the playbook. Like, plus 200 isn't crazy to finish at all. It's not plus 450. It's a 1 fight sample size, but I do think we do see some ownership in this fight.
So I don't, kind of where I disagree though. I don't think you need a finish for her to be on the winner. Like, that's kind of where I'm.
Blanchfield, you don't. That's why I said Blanchfield wins. She's going to be fine and that's the only thing that scares me a little bit with this fight with Maverick is even though I think she's the more groomed fighter, if you look at Macy Barber, at the end of the day, did Maverick win the fight in my eyes? Yeah, but Macy Barber was kind of pushing her out to a point where Blanchfield throws a lot more volume, and once Blanchfield gets her rhythm going, she's going to just start throwing and throwing and throwing. She's going to make Maverick fight off her back foot. So if the higher upside in DraftKings, as far as from a safer perspective, if gun to head, you had to play this fight. If Blanchfield wins, I think she is probably going to score more on her end than Maverick would, unless Maverick catches her. Like I said, a lot of these girls are very raw. A lot of, when they're coming in at this age, they really haven't gotten their bell rung yet. And Maverick is somebody that if she does catches you, she will ring your bell. So, it's a tough fight because I tell people, tournaments are won and lost in the middle. And a fight like this that's sitting right in the middle, it's tough, and like I said, this is also a very good matched up fight. I don't know why they're doing it. They shouldn't be doing it, but it's really a shoestring fight.
God, I love it. The more you guys talk, the more I love Blanchfield.
You're going to make me, you're going to make me change my script.
I really, really like Blanchfield. Just listening. It's funny how I can do that. Like, some sport, I'm just good at listening to knowledgeable people and like putting it together. And Blanchfield, I know Mav is like considered to be probably better, but I mean, only minus 142 makes me want to take Blanchfield. Everything, the scoring, everything about Blanchfield makes me want to take heavy on Blanchfield at 78. But again, you guys are the knowledgeable ones. I'm just using what you're saying because I don't even know. I've never even heard of Blanchfield. So let's move to the next one. Oh, I like this one though. We got Andre Muniz minus 160, Eric Anders plus 140. We got minus 225 finish odds. Title. What do you think of this one?
Another one of your boys, Big T.
I like this one.
He got it done. If you told me that Andre Muniz was going to snap Cachoeira's arm, I'd call you crazy. Absolutely insane. Shows how high level he is. Similar to the first fight, Robertson, Cachoeira. This fight's on the ground. Anders is in a lot of trouble for sure. Muniz can finish that at any time. If this fight's on the feet, Anders, we saw, Anders 2 fights ago, Darren Stewart fight number 1, he looked like a world kill. He was beating Darren Stewart bad, looked really, really good, powerful until that illegal knee. The second fight, we didn't see even close to that. It was a lot more boring. He didn't come out with that aggressiveness. I don't know what Eric Anders we're going to get. He's a freak athlete. He's very fast. He has power. Definitely give him the advantage on the feet. If Muniz gets one takedown, though, or takes the back or something, if you snap Cachoeira's arm, you can do bad things to Eric Anders, too. So I'm looking at this fight, 8,500 Muniz, 7,700 Anders, minus 225 to finish inside the distance. Both have a path to a finish and a big score. Am I going to pay 8,400 for Maverick when I get 8,500 for Muniz? 7,700 for Anders, 7,800 for Blanchfield. That's kind of why I just fell into that thing, because price range around, I'm hunting finishes today. You're right. It definitely might not be the right thing. If I get a first or second round finish, at least I know I got a pretty good score that won't hurt me too much. I like this fight a lot. My pick's going to be Muniz. Got to make a pick. I think get it to the ground once. I was so impressed about the Jacare thing, but I think fading Anders would definitely be a mistake.
I see this dude's picture. Is this that dude? His nickname is your boy or something? Is that him? I thought that was him. MadLab, what's the deal with this fight? What do you think?
So I've agreed with Zach. I agreed with you this whole time up until this point. And not the pick. I'm with you on the pick.
We got to disagree anyways. It's what makes the show better.
If you were to tell me that Anders won the fight, and if you were to tell me that Blanchfield won the fight, I would tell you that Blanchfield was going to score more.
Fair. I think I just think that a finish could be a first round finish. For
that's where you're right. So the thing with Eric Anders for me is anytime I say I don't like him, it doesn't mean personally. It just means as a fighter. I don't like him. There's something about him I just don't like. I think he's been living off his sick athleticism, like you said. He's got good power. But the thing is, the guy's Jekyll and Hyde, right? I mean, the guy will come in when he fought, Thiago Santos. Everyone was like, holy shit, like, how is this guy surviving? And then he'll come out and he looks like he's on a Xanax sometimes. It looks like he's literally on drugs, and if you watch him, when he hunts you down, he never really squares up. He kind of like skips this way to the side, and that's how he kind of tries. And that's no way to mirror somebody, because basically what you're doing at that point is you're pushing them to one side. If you want to hunt somebody down and you want to keep cornering them off, you can't hunt them this way. You got to kind of zigzag and corner them. And that's his game. I mean, is he going to take Muniz down? He could, if he gets top control, he could. The thing that turned me with this fight, though, because I was torn on this fight, the thing that turned me with this fight is when I watched Muniz fight Jacare, and I'm not going to lie, I was on Jacare. The fact of the matter is when you get a guy like Nunes who goes in on Jacare like he did, a guy who's that high pedigree in grappling, and actually take the chance confidently without hesitation to take him down, that bodes a lot of confidence in your grappling. I mean, you need a lot of confidence to go in on Jacare and say, you know what, I'm gonna beat you at your own game where you're so world class. You're legendary. He's legendary at that, in that stage of the game. And the other thing that really got me was his timing on his shots. If you watch his double blasts and you watch his takedowns, they're timed so meticulous that I just don't see Anders being able to stop them if he comes in like that with that kind of game plan. With the way Anders comes in, he's very high, he's very erect, he exposes his hips, and he really doesn't defend the second level until he's against the cage. In open space, he kind of skips forward. And with a guy like Muniz, you got to defend that second level. And if you have to defend two levels at that point, you can't just let leather go freely. You have to really be cautious on how you're letting your hands go. So I think Muniz is going to kind of hesitate him a little bit. And I think if he has success taking it to the ground, Zach, I think you're 100% right. I think that, it's going to be probably an early night for Muniz. The thing that does concern me, what if he doesn't get it to the ground? He's really not a great striker. And if you'd watched when he was fighting Jacare was backing him up. Jacare was hitting him. And even though Jacare has decent hands, I would say that Anders' hands is probably, a little bit better, a little bit sharper at this stage in the game. But when I did watch the face-offs, I was pretty surprised to see that Muniz looked actually bigger than Anders. He was a little bit more sizable. So, that was a positive thing for me. So I'm going Muniz here, but it does scare me a little bit. But I think you're right. I think if he does have success getting this to the ground, I think he could probably take a limb home with him.
Last point to make, Big T. All four of Muniz losses have come by knockout too, which is another reason I think we see this line where it's at to finish inside the distance. And then hit the like button too. Big T's hosting. He doesn't ask for likes. Do us a favor. Hit the like button for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and as you're going, I mean, we were talking about it before the show, but if you haven't seen SaberSim on the site, it looks sweet on the Run Pure site. And as you're going through, just pull up the MMA like I'm doing. This is what I'm doing personally. As these guys are talking, I'm going through and bumping these projections and lowering these projections in the SaberSim on the site. Makes it easy later when I go to build these teams. I'll remember what Titletown and MadLab were saying based on where I put my numbers with my notes. Just makes it super easy using that SaberSim now that we got it on there. If you want to sign up, use that code SABER15, 15% off. We'll get you squared away with that.
And make sure to check that you didn't stack lineups in that. I guess there was a little problem.
I think they were fixing it. They said,
yeah, but just make sure before
definitely.
you submit lineups that you don't have Oliveira and Poirier stacked and stuff like that. But they are fixing it. Just want to make sure you're not burning lineups doing
especially
that.
On this list, like stacked card like this.
Yeah.
Definitely don't in tournaments. Cash games completely different, but tournaments, don't be stacking fights tonight, or you're not getting to the top on this card.
You know, here's a little tidbit for you guys too, to use for this fight, because we're talking about the finish and stuff. If you look at Muniz, I mean, he's obviously got a much smaller sample size, but 100 plus points 1 of 3 times. His current market value, he's hitting 2 or 3 times. Anders is hitting 100 plus points 1 of 10. So he's hitting the 100-point benchmark at his 10 fights in the UFC, 10%. He's hitting his current market value at 7,700, which is fairly low. 7,700 is fairly low. He's only hitting at 3 of 10. So he's only hitting 7,700 at a 30% clip from a DFS standpoint. So that's something else to look at. That kind of shows you a little bit of a pattern of him kind of laying back and just looking to load up and land that big shot. So that's just a little food for thought.
What's that called, MadLab? What's it called on your site?
So I do a thing where, I do 100 plus points.
Yeah.
I calculate all their fights only under the UFC umbrella.
So you rank them top to bottom for the slate?
I don't rank. I do an individual metrics for all the fighters on one tab on the site. So basically what I do is I take only their UFC fights. So Muniz only has 3 fights in the UFC. So that's a small sample size. And I calculate how many times they've hit the 100 plus point mark, and then what their current market value is and what percentage they're hitting at that point. So
I love that. How much is you got, like a daily pass too for the people watching, right?
Yeah, we actually messed up on the typo. It was a typo. It's $24.99. People think it's a daily, but you're actually getting it for the rest of the month. It's
okay
for the month.
So $25 gets you all December.
Yeah, it gets you everything. It gets you breakdowns, full DFS, wagers, full fighter metrics, private Discord, private live stream, which I'll be doing after this. And then I obviously do the other show, which is free to the people, over at Bet TV Tuesday and Thursdays, where me and my business partner Bush break down. We do the review on Tuesdays, and then we do kind of just the main card breakdown on Thursdays.
You guys are doing great stuff on that too. I love checking those out. Great stuff.
Yeah, man,
for sure.
Fun.
People should check them out without a doubt. These guys are so knowledgeable at what they're doing. They're going to make you bet like me. I know I keep saying it and it's redundant, but I don't know anything. I like listening to these guys that are super knowledgeable, because then I can use it and make money off it, which is all of our goals. So check that out for sure. I want to check out the graph too, because that's right up my alley. I want to view stuff like that. That helps me the most, more than anything, honestly.
I'm not a numbers guy, man. I never was.
I'm the opposite. I'm the numbers guy. I like paying attention to that stuff.
I'm like the old dog in the room, man. I always, whenever I talk to people that I'm much more of a film guy. I really predicate it, because I tell people fights are like snowflakes, dude. They just, there's never a fight that's the same, so it's hard. But for the DFS standpoint, I know that's what people like, and I know that's kind of worked in. So it's just a formula that I worked out, and everybody seems to like it. So I just continue to do it.
The funniest part about what you're saying is I'm a numbers guy like that with MMA, but every other sport that I actually know, I'm like you. I'm the film guy, the watch the game guy. I'm not a numbers guy, but when I don't know a sport, I view the numbers more than the sports I actually know. So it's funny you say that. Let's keep it moving though. We got next fight. Let me pull the list back up. I like this fight. This is actually a dog. I'm interested to hear what you guys say. But Bruno Silva minus 335, Jordan Wright 260. I kind of like Jordan Wright a little bit, but I want to hear what title. Talk to me about this fight.
Man, this fight's giving me a little problem. I mean, so it's minus 650 to end inside the distance. Like, this is a fight you want in DFS. 30 of these 33 fights between these two have ended inside the distance. They're kill or be killed. Jordan Wright's got a glass chin too, which is worrisome against Silva. I trust Silva's chin more in this fight. They're both going to be throwing bombs. Jordan Wright, impressive win over Jamie Pickett. I mean, he ended that fight pretty quickly. I know that was a tough fight for us too, Big T. We were going back and forth on. Bruno Silva, I mean, he was getting dominated the first 2 rounds against Andrew Sanchez. His one flaw is he's not good off his back. He can be taken down. I'm not worried about that in this fight. Jordan Wright has a couple of submissions on his resume, but against weak competition, expect this fight to stay standing. Silva's got a ton of power. I mean, man, this guy can strike. 18 of his 21 wins are by knockout. I think he's the better striker. I trust his chin more. It's not a hot take. If you look at the line, he's minus 300 for a reason. I have Wright as a fade right now in the playbook in 20 and below. I'm still debating it. I mean, it's minus 650 to end inside the distance. I expect it to end. I'm confident Silva does get it done though. But I mean, Wright looked good on the scales too. He looked big, which is something that I noticed. He's got power. It's going to end inside the distance. It's a fight you want to target in DFS. I have a strong lean Silva, but I'm excited to hear what MadLab has to say about it.
I am too, because I don't know. I don't know what it is about this, right? But I freaking
It's
like
always
him.
good odds. It's always bad odds, but good finishing odds and fights that finish. That's why it's so like 6,900 for like a fight that's
He
going to
looked
finish.
good too. I think I remember 2 of his 3 fights, and he looked good both of those.
Not
fights.
against Buck. He must have missed the Buckley one.
Talk me out of it, MadLab. Talk me out of it.
Just say he's your lock of the week. Just
No, I'm not going there.
Ryan Hall, Blanchfield.
I'm still at 2 locks, boys.
And Wright, 3 locks for Big T.
Right? No, don't be spewing that out there. Not yet. MadLab's going to talk me out of it.
I think Zach kind of hit the nail on the head. The only thing I'll kind of add to that is that, the thing with Jordan Wright is when he first came to the UFC, I thought there was a real big ploy with it, because a lot of people think that he's called the Beverly Hills Ninja because he's wealthy. The reason why he's called the Beverly Hills Ninja is because he moved to LA to be a stuntman. That's originally why he moved to LA. So there was a part of me that was wondering, like, is he doing this maybe to get his face out there? Maybe he, but the kid can fight. I mean, the kid's interesting. He's pretty flashy. He could fight. But if you look at, he had a knockout in the regional circuit, Zach. Did you ever see that knockout? That was a no contest?
No, I didn't.
Well, he had a knockout in the regional circuit. It was a carbon copy of the way he got knocked out in the UFC. It seems like, and it's odd because a guy like that who moves around a lot, usually the punchers that load up from the outside are the ones that are going to knock you out. You're never getting knocked out by straight punches. So he tends to get knocked out by punches that are coming right down the center line. And he gets hit. And if you look at, this is where numbers can come in a little bit. If you look at his striking differentials, he's loading up with, 7 strikes per minute. But he's also getting hit with 7 per minute, so the guy's defensive prowess is just not good for as much as he moves. He's got a very traditional karate, background, but he's very upright when he works. And if you look at Silva, the way he fights, he's not a load up fighter. He kind of throws everything right down the middle. His combinations are kind of tight. I'm not sold on Silva in any way, shape, or form as far as a fighter. Where does he go from here? But I do think that there's major upside for him to get a finish here. But I will say that Wright is one of those guys that it's very hard to find a training partner in the gym for someone like him. There's certain fighters in the UFC that's hard to kind of carbon copy. And he does bring an element of surprise. And a perfect example is when Dariush fought Alexander Hernandez. I was on Hernandez in that fight because I was very aware of him in his previous fights. In a regional circuit. And I know that Dariush is a very slow starter. He's very calm demeanor. So I said, if he gets him cold, he's going to catch him. And that's what happened. He caught him cold. So Wright's going to have to come out and kind of catch Silva cold. Once Silva starts breaking that sweat and starts loosening up and he starts catching his ebbs and flows, then I just think it's going to be, end game from there. But there is definitely a part of me that's scared of this fight a little bit. I think it is mispriced a little bit. I think it could be a little bit tighter. But Zach, I'm with you. I think Silva gets it done inside the distance.
So Wright's got a bad chin.
Yeah,
keeps it high. Gets Buckley. Yeah, he couldn't. Buckley hit him real bad at the end of the first. Didn't recover in the second, and it was short night after that. Minus 650 to end. It's gonna end.
So if you guys had to choose between Wright or the chick in the first fight, Cachoeira or whatever her name was, who are you guys picking?
I'm going Cachoeira personally.
Yeah, I would say because she's a little bit more one-dimensional. Jillian Robertson. If she doesn't get it to the ground, you're gonna be in trouble.
Got you. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, we got a nice little even one here. Tui, how you say this dude's name? Tui? I always call him Tui.
Tai Tuivasa. Tai Tuivasa.
Minus 125 versus Augusto Saki. Plus 105. I thought this line was flipped early in the week. Maybe I was wrong. But MadLab, what do you got in this one?
This is tricky, man, because obviously you want to grab the heavyweights, right? You want to finish, and the heavyweight guys at the end of the day, they propose the best option sometimes for finishes. But if you look at these guys and you look at their somatotypes physically, like by picture, they just look like lumbering heavyweights. They're really not. They're pretty athletic for their size. Sakai moves very well. He moves well in space. Tuivasa, the same thing. I mean, this is a big dude who people will be, he's very deceptive looking. The guy is sharp. He's got good hands. He's got good leg kicks. I think for Sakai, what he needs to do in this fight is he needs to keep it in space. He's the faster fighter. He's got the sharper hands. He moves well laterally for his size. And I think Tuivasa, what he wants to do is he really wants to chip away at his legs. He wants to, bomb him with those leg kicks, kind of slow him down, stop his movement, get him against the cage, throw some elbows, do what Tuivasa does. He will bring that lumbering style, with him if he needs to. But the fight scares me a little bit for the mere fact because I can see this going to the cards. This is a fight for some reason I can see going to the cards. I'm picking Tuivasa here, and I think if there is a finish, it's going to be on his side because I think Sakai has shown a chink in his chin where Tuivasa, historically has looked very, very durable. And Tuivasa is much more of a finisher. He looks for the finisher more than Sakai, where Sakai is more, he wants to dance around you a little bit. He wants to pepper you with the jab. He wants to set you up. He wants to create his angles and stuff like that. But there is a part of me that is nervous because sometimes when guys respect each other so much, they tend to sit back a little bit and they tend to really pick and choose their spots. So, I mean, it's a fight I'm going to have shares of, obviously 8,300, 7,900. I'm on the Tuivasa side more because I think the upside for the finish is there for him more than it is Sakai. But to say the fight doesn't scare me, to say that, it's a solid pick for Tuivasa would be definitely wrong, especially in a heavyweight fight, so volatile.
This is the dude that literally lost instantly last time, right?
No, he lost with 4 seconds left in the first round of Rosenstruck, which was so hurt. I was in first.
I remember him getting beat quick. He almost it was the end of the first round. Was it versus Rosen?
Yeah, Rosenstruck. Yeah,
that's like a big biggie boy. That's like a big T fighter.
Exactly. Title. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, this one, it was the odds were at par most of the week. I'm seeing minus 125, 105 on DraftKings now. Tuivasa is the favorite. I feel like it's a buy low spot for Sakai and kind of a buy high spot for Tuivasa. Tuivasa's beaten some bums in the UFC. Harry Hunsucker, complete bum.
He did the Lord's work for us, though. He knocked out Hardy. That's what we've been waiting for.
And he was on the Dustin Poirier McGregor card. Like we said, Ryan Hall, some of these names were on that big card that everyone was watching. Tuivasa was one, and he made a huge statement. That knockout over Greg Hardy. I mean, talk about game of inches, though. They were both just swinging. It easily could have been Greg Hardy knockout in the other way. And then what did he do after? He went on, he did a shoey for everyone. The people love him.
Oh, this is the dude that eats the shoe. I forgot the shoe drink. Which one is that?
Shoey, Tuivasa, the shoey he did after that knockout.
I like that. I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot about
a lot of people like it too. And we're going to get to Sean O'Malley. I think the line's a little, Tuivasa's the people's name right now. Sakai's lost his last 2 fights, but there were 2 main events. Alistair Overeem, pretty good fight. And then Rosenstruck, I mean, if he hits you and you go down. So I'm not taking too much out of it. Tuivasa, he has more of the early finishing upside, finished 11 of his 12 wins. All of them except one were in the first round. The later this fight goes, though, we've seen Tuivasa slow down, and I like Sakai's gas tank. I like his movement on the feet, too. I'm going to go with the dog a little bit in Sakai. I like both sides, minus 250 on inside the distance. I definitely see what MadLab's saying, that, I mean, these heavyweight fights, sometimes we see it where they're supposed to finish, and they just sit at range for 15 minutes and you get an awful score. So I wouldn't
Derek
go all
Lewis and Ngannou, remember that?
Oh yeah, that was absolutely brutal.
That had to be the worst fight ever, as far as a highly touted fight.
Brian Hall.
It got us gone lower own though the next time against Derek Lewis though. So that was the one thing. But
where's this dude at? When are we getting this dude back? Our boy Ngannou, or when's he coming back?
January 22nd, I believe.
I'm going to that fight.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Where's it at?
Yeah, it's right here in Orange County, in LA, a Honda Center.
Who's he fighting?
Gone.
Gone.
Oh yeah, that's in January.
Yeah.
Oh baby, that's exciting stuff there.
That'll be one of the best. That'll be one of the best heavyweight fights you'll see for sure. I can't wait.
Are we ever gonna get one of those 2 dudes versus Bones?
Dude,
Bones just too far out there at the moment.
I don't see him anymore, dude.
He's just done.
Yeah, I don't even want to see him anymore.
I mean, I hope we do, so I can bet either Gane or Ngannou personally, but we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's close fight, go fight. I'm gonna take the dog, little $400 discount. The later this fight goes, I think it advantage him. But yeah, I mean, Tai Tuivasa, he connects in the first round. It's all she wrote. fight. I think you get both sides. Another reason why I'm fading that mid-tier fight, Blanchfield Maverick right now, I just like this Sakai Tuivasa one more, the Muniz Anders ones more, stuff like that. But you're right, Big T. I mean,
I was literally just about to say before you said it, I'm like, MadLab kind of brings it up. I could just see how many times do we see these moobs fights go in there and they just lay on each other for a while and then it goes the distance. Like once it gets in the second round, I just feel like, you're in trouble. I don't know. They just start hovering around each other and neither one of them scores. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying obviously that other fight is better than this fight, not by any means. But I'm just saying a lot more people will like the minus 250 or whatever it is finish odds over the other one. And I don't think it's that much difference as far as scoring. And that other fight, like, easily will score better if they both go to the cards, in my opinion.
Sure.
So I don't know. It's not a clear definition either way for me. Let's move on to the next one, though. We got Pedro Munhoz minus 120 versus Dom Cruz plus 100. Let's go back to you, MadLab. What do you think of this one?
I went back and forth on this one all week, man. And I kept going back to, how does Pedro Munhoz win this fight? And if you look at all his fights, how does he win? He kind of baits you into a firefight. That's what he does. He's very intelligent. He knows he's got the grappling to stand up. He doesn't have to defend the second level because he knows if you take him down, he's got the guillotines on the way down. He's got the black belt Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's very well versed there. So that's a security blanket if you decide to take him there. So him defending a second level, he's not worried about that at all. He invites you to take him down. The problem with him is that he needs to bait you into a firefight. And if you look at what he did to like Cody Garbrandt, if you watch that exchange, if you really watch that exchange with Cody and you see his face, once Cody starts exchanging for him, he actually starts smiling a little bit because he's like, I got him to exchange with me. And he knows that his chin more than likely is going to be more durable than the guy who's standing across from him because he's extremely, extremely durable. So he knew right then and there, once that exchange started, I got Cody, he's done. Then you look at a guy like Dominick Cruz, who, like I said, intelligence goes a long way for me. And when you have a guy like him, he's a perfect example of you can't find people in the training room that can really mimic his style. He's very just all over the place. He manipulates angles as he's creating them. And what he does is he makes you think that you have him dialed in. And then the minute he sees that you're starting to get off on him a little bit, he'll start changing angles and start changing positions. Now, he's not going to be baited into a firefight against Munhoz because it's not his style. His style, his whole career is movement, a lot of, creating his own shots, staying in space, getting these takedowns, getting back up. He just kind of frustrates you and makes you chase him. Munhoz is much more of a forward and backward fighter. He needs to really, really have somebody engage with him forward and backward. He had problems with Aljamain Sterling. He had problems with Frankie Edgar. Any guy who kind of moves around a lot, he tends to have problems with because he really can't keep you in place. That's why he's got such good leg kicks, because he knows that he's not a very fluid mover. So what he does to keep you in place is he starts hammering your legs. And if you start hammering the person's legs, it kind of makes them stay in place because at that point they're compromised. So you can't really move as much. That's where he wins this fight. If he wins this fight, he's got to have success chopping away on Dominick Cruz's legs, keeping him still. If Dominick Cruz stays away from those leg kicks and moves around a lot, I could see him outpointing Munhoz with takedowns, such like that. So I'm going Dominick Cruz in this fight. I just think that he's very intelligent. He knows what Munhoz wants to do. He's shown him uber respect in all the meetings and such like that. He's not taking this whole ego thing about being on the prelims. He's obviously an analyst, which makes him much sharper. He really understands what he's watching in there. And if you look at their scoring here, if you look at Munhoz, he's 100 plus points 4 of 10 times. And he's hitting only the 8,100 mark 4 of 10 times. So he's hitting his current market value at 4 of 1. And if you look at Cruz, even though he's not a knockout artist, even though he's like not this known as this big consummate finisher, 100 plus points 5 of 10 times, he's hitting his current market value 8 of 10 times. So he's hitting his current market value at 80% when he does win, which is a good number for a guy who really doesn't finish. That just shows his activity. However, he's older now. And I don't know if you could really stem too much from that. He looked great against Casey Kenny. I actually picked him against Casey Kenny. And it showed that his injuries that he did have, his surgeries and stuff, are kind of subsiding and are kind of resoluting back into his body. But this is really, is Dominic Cruz going to get old before our eyes in this fight? Or is he going to be Dominic Cruz when he fought Casey Kenny? If he's Dominic Cruz when he fought Casey Kenny, I believe he wins this fight by decision. But if Munhoz can keep him in place with the leg kicks, then I think that's where Dominic Cruz is going to be in trouble. But I think I'm going to go Dominic Cruz here. But 8,100, I tell my guys in DraftKings, you got to hedge. It's a lunacy thing to go all in on one guy, 8,100, when you could literally set your lineup, and you could just kind of keep the same lineup and just interchange them. So it's kind of a no lose situation at that point, so guys, make sure you do that. Whenever you see fights that are 8,100, 8,200, 8,000, you got to kind of interchange some of the lineups where you're keeping all your meat and you're just interchanging them. So yeah, you're going to expect one to go down, but in that fight, if you're expecting it to be a high scoring fight, you're not really going to lose ground. You're still going to have a couple bullets that are going to climb to the top. But my official pick is Dominic Cruz by decision.
Yeah, Titletown. What do you think? I mean, unless you have like a super strong take, I think that's a great point. I mean, there's no reason really to take a stand on fights like this. If you have a take, go ahead and do it, but no reason to unless you have that, right? Title, what do you think of this one?
You're going to say it's another one of my flaws. I mean, it's plus 150. It's Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz goes to decisions usually. His movement keeps it that way. Pedro Munhoz, I mean, I agree with everything MadLab said. Pedro Munhoz past the victory is chopping down those legs. His leg kicks are nasty, throws good volume. If he lands those leg kicks early, Dominic Cruz is definitely in for some trouble because it'll compromise his movement. I think this fight goes to decision, and 11 of 14 fights are going to end inside the distance. Like, I would play that Blanchfield fight over this fight for sure if I had to. Can't play everyone. There's 4 mid-tier fights. I like the Sakai mid-tier fight. I like the who was the other one we were talking? Muniz isn't kind of mid-tier. Oh, we're going to get to Ponzinibbio, Jeff Neal, which I think is pretty fun one too. So I think when you cross off 2 of the 4 mid-tier fights, that allows you to get overweight on the other 2, and then you mainly go stars and scrubs build. Gonna hope this fight goes a decision. Don't really have a strong lean. If I played one guy in DFS, it would be Pedro Munhoz, because I don't see Dominic Cruz getting a finish. I could see Pedro Munhoz getting a finish, so I like his upside a little more, but not a fight I'll have too much of.
Who are you picking?
I'm gonna go Pedro Munhoz, but I mean, I was on Casey Kenny against Dominic Cruz too and lost that one. So I'm thinking the age is gonna show up sooner rather than later.
How old is this dude? How old's Cruz?
Like 38, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he had long layout.
But he's a shop worn
36.
Yeah, this guy's been in. I mean,
he's one of the best of all time. He's fought the best. He's been there. He's done it. Like it's an old 36,
and you name it.
What is this freaking dude that just keeps posting in chat sports live 7? Like, why would you spam our free show? Like, who cares? Like, what are you doing with your life?
Got a burner count too. It was one thing, and then
is it DC? It might be DC coming from MadLab trying to spam this account now that MadLab's on there. But let's move on to the next one. We got, looks like Josh Emmett minus 145 versus Dan Ige. Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Ige.
Yeah.
Ige. Okay, title. What do you got in this one?
Man, it's exciting to see Josh Emmett come back. It's been about a 1.5 year layoff. Absolute war against Shane Burgos. That fight is not talked about enough. If you want to go see a good fight that's underrated, Shane Burgos, Josh Emmett was a lot of fun. He suffered a lot of injuries in that fight, though. Tore his ACL early in that fight. Still won a unanimous decision. Battled through other injuries, too. So he's old himself. I believe he's 36 as well. So injuries, 36 years old. There's definitely some concerns there. The guy has some of the most power in the UFC, though. Pound for pound, arguably number 1. 10 knockdowns in his last 6 fights. Like Dan Ige. The thing is, though, why this fight so fun, Dan Ige has never been knocked out. He's shown to have one hell of a chin. We'll see. Josh Emmett's power, one of the best against one of the better chins. Dan Ige should be a lot of fun. Emmett has a problem, not a problem, but he can be outpointed during the rounds and be losing the rounds until he finds that one knockdown. And usually that one knockdown is enough to seal the round, which is kind of how he gets the win sometimes. 8,800. It's tough. Like, would I be surprised if Josh Emmett got a first round knockout and put away Ige? No, I wouldn't, but I don't think that's the most likely outcome. Vegas does agree. This is the 3rd fight that's supposed to go to decision. I'm seeing plus 120. Again, that's just a coin flip. Plus 120 means absolutely nothing. If someone does finish, I expect it to be Josh Emmett, but I think Dan Ige wins minutes in this round. in DFS, I probably prefer Dan Ige at 7,400 because that $1,400 difference. And I like other guys in that 8,800 range, but I like some of the other dogs upsides more for a finish than I do Dan Ige because I think it would be a decision. So I'm personally hoping this fight does go to decision. Emmett has the power to put it away. I'm going to be betting more on Ige's chin, the layoff hurting a little bit, his age. Not 100% sure what Josh Emmett shows up, but it's going to be a really fun fight. I'm looking forward to watching it. If I have to make a pick, I'm actually going to say Emmett by decision, but I don't want that DFS. I'd rather the Ige decision. So pick officially, if you had to bet it, which I still wouldn't, Emmett by decision, not a fight that will have the most exposure in DFS though.
This seems like a fade fight for me. So let me get this straight. So Ige's never been knocked out and Emmett hasn't fought in a year and a half. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. This is a fight I think would go to decision, but MadLab, talk to me about this one.
Doesn't that suck, dude, when you're on one side, but you know the values on the other side?
Yep. It's the worst, but it has every week. Just get used to it.
So this fight's interesting. This is actually on my show when we bring Christine Showdown on. This was her dog pick of the week. She was all over Ige.
She's in chat too. Shout out to Christine.
Yeah, she loved Ige. So the thing with this is, if you look at Emmett, like you said, he's got the layoff, and if you look at just his somatotype, if you look at his back, if you look at the way his rear delts are, like it's very odd looking. Everything's kind of protruded. That's where he generates all his power from. So the dude is freakishly powered, and the dude can knock a lot of people out. But if you look at all the people he's knocked out, he's done it with one shot. He doesn't do it with accumulation of volume. He kind of clips and he puts it down. Is he going to be able to do that to Dan Ige? That's the question. And Dan Ige historically is very, very durable. That's not going to last that much longer. I mean, you can't continuously take punishment like Dan Ige and expect that to happen through the longevity of his career. But, that's what I keep going back on. The reason why I'm leaning on Ige a little bit is for that mere factor is that a lot of his fights, a lot of Emmett's fights, he will be in a tough fight. He could be losing around and then he just uncorks, loads up and gets you with that one-hitter quitter and knocks you out. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that to Ige. I think if it goes to the ground, I know that Emmett has good, wrestling chops on the ground, but we know that Ige's black belt Brazilian jiu-jitsu doesn't use it often because he'd rather stand than trade, but he does have that in his back pocket. I think from a picking perspective, it's really a tough fight. Like I'm going with Ige just because the value is there. From a DraftKings standpoint, I could see this being kind of just like a sluggish fight. But at $7,400, if Ige wins, he's going to have to spit some kind of volume. He's going to have to switch things up. He's not going to stand 15 minutes with Emmett and go into these fire exchanges. I could see him getting hurt, maybe put on Queer Street a little bit, going for a desperation shot, maybe getting into the ground, getting some control time. So I do think there's value there on Ige at 7,400, a lot more value than there is on Emmett. Even if Emmett wins the fight, $8,800 price tag to win a decision with his style is not really selling me that much. If you told me they were a little bit more, like an Adrian Yanez who's going to throw a little bit more volume and stuff like that, that's a different story. But Emmett doesn't throw that kind of volume. He more sits there, he sets you up, he parries his jab, and he looks to uncork that one shot. So if he wins a decision in this fight, I don't know if he's gonna cover that value. Where if Ige wins even a decision, he's going to have to spit out some volume. He's going to have to switch some things. So from a DraftKings perspective, I like Ige. And even on his current market value, Ige 7,400, he's hitting it 6 to 10 times. So that's a 60% clip. Not the greatest, but 60% of the times when he does go to decision, he does win. So there is some value there for me with Ige. And on Emmett on the other side, I don't think he's going to knock him out. And usually when he does win by knockout or finish, and he's hitting 5 of 10. So that's at a 50% clip. So I think the value is on Ige. I am picking Ige, but it's a fight from a betting perspective I probably personally would stay away from.
Love it. I think we're on similar pages there, all of us, for that fight. Now is this the first fight of the main card, the next one, the Sugar Show?
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the main card. Everyone likes watching the Sugar Show. I don't know who this dude he's fighting is, though. So we got
you'd
O'Malley.
recognize him.
I reckon that minus 335. How do you even pronounce it?
Paiva. I'm gonna bring up a name at the end of the show for you to pronounce. I want you to pronounce.
Let's do it. But yeah, let's go, MadLab. You got Sugar Show versus Paiva, minus 335. Definitely with Nunes as the two, I'm sure, highest owned favorites. What do you think here?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, the fight scares me a little bit. It really, really does. Just for
I like
the mere,
that.
for the mere fact that, and it's not so much O'Malley's skill. The dude is super, super talented. He's got very pristine striking. But the injury does scare me a little bit. You don't know when that's going to rear its head again. But also, if you look at, just who he's been fighting. I mean, he really only fought one good fighter. And even though there was an injury that he lost to, Marlon Vera was beating him in that round. And Marlon Vera historically is not a first-round fighter. Zach, this is a guy who usually loses the first round and he comes back later in the fight. So to see him take that first round did scare me a little bit, even though he did. I got to see that fight again. They have to run that back. But then I go back to, at the end of the day, this is a business. And if you look at Sean O'Malley, he's never fought on a UFC Fight Night card. In 7 fights, he's only been on pay-per-view cards.
That's
all
crazy.
7 of his fights have been all pay-per-view cards, which tells you what? They want to make a star out of this kid. This kid is very marketable. He's got the talent to back it up, but they're not walking him. They're literally crawling this kid. And that I don't like, because eventually after this fight, who's he going to fight next? You got to start giving this kid ranked opponents. So we really haven't seen him face any kind of adversity in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we have, I shouldn't say that, we have seen him when he got injured and he finished the fight and Joe Rogan was interviewing him on the ground. But as far as being in a real war, you're not a fighter until you've been in a war with somebody and you literally have been tested. You came back from the depths of hell to win the fight in that deep water. We really haven't seen him there yet. Raulian Paiva is a journeyman. He's never going to be any more than a journeyman, never going to be any less than a journeyman, but he's a solid fighter that can pose some problems for him. But at the end of the day, the UFC has nothing to gain if Paiva wins this fight. They have everything to lose if they invested too much money in this kid. Every one of his fights, like I said, have been on pay-per-view. They know where they want to go, and these matchmakers are very, very calculated in what they do. They know what they're doing. At the end of the day, they got to fight the fight. He could slip from the banana peel and lose, but I got O'Malley here. I don't know if he finishes him, but I think as the fight goes on, you're just going to see him really, really dialing him in, getting his timing down, showcasing a little bit, and I think he wins the fight. As far as his price on DraftKings, I think it's fine just for the mere fact that I do think he could finish him. But guys, be prepared. You're going to have a lot of company, just for the mere fact that the casuals know him with the crazy hair. Everyone's going to jump in on O'Malley. He's got the marketing ability, so you're going to have a lot of company in tournaments with him. But I think he has all the potential in the world to cover the value, but I will not fade Paiva in this spot. Totally. I won't. I will have a couple bullets on him just in case something does happen. If he does get that in, if the injury does rear its head, or he does start facing some adversity and he gets clipped, there's still a lot of unknown with this kid. We've seen his offensive prowess, which is great, but we haven't really seen him face heavy adversity yet. So you don't know somebody until they do that. So my official pick is O'Malley. As far as a betting perspective, I think he's okay to tie into parlays. I would not lay that juice on him straight up. But yeah, my official pick here has got to be O'Malley.
Yeah, I'll just say the price looks a little short to me. I know it's 335. That's a big number, but it does feel just a tad short for me. Title, what do you think of this? Is it a lock?
It's not a lock. I mean, I think MadLab made so many good points that I agree on. I mean, first of all, I can never call Sean O'Malley a lock in a fight because it can only take one calf kick and he could.
He asked for it too. Like he asked to get in trouble at times.
He's one. Yeah, he fought Matinho on one day, like that. Yeah, he looked fine in that fight. I think he could have looked better. The volume numbers were insane. He showed he had cardio.
He could have finished that dude like a million times. Wasn't that the fight, right? Where he could have finished him and he just kept like wanting to beat him even worse.
But that's the thing. That's the thing with that fight, though. Like he looked great offensively, but Matinho wasn't throwing any kind of offense.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was definitely things that he could have looked better on. I wish it was someone other than Paiva. I mean, so Big T, why I said you'll remember Paiva. Do you remember the Zuma goal of Paiva fight? It was Masvidal against, we were going to ship. It ended up being a fight stack that made it ship. It was on Fight Island. They gave it to Paiva. I thought Zumagulov clearly won that fight, so I'm going to call Robert again.
I think I remember Zuma being cheap. I'm looking at the scoring, and I don't really remember, but I kind of remember what you're saying, though.
But he's 3-0 in his last 3 fights. Yeah, he knocked out Mark De La Rosa, but I thought he lost to Zumagulov 29-28, and I thought it was a clear draw 28-28 against Kyler Phillips, where he got beat bad in the first round. He almost got finished. I thought it was a clear 10-8. And then Kyler Phillips just gassed. So then Paiva won rounds 2 and 3. I wish I liked Paiva a little more. Like, I wish it was a fighter I liked a little more. But every time it's Sean O'Malley in the Sugar Show, he's going to get the line's going to be wider than I think it deserves to be. He has the following. He has the hype. The leg kick, the calf kick is always a huge concern with me. You can tell he feels every single one he gets. If you're Paiva's coach, you got to come in and just have the game plan, spam these leg kicks for days, limit the movement, and you can start taking over from there. So I'm going to have the other side of O'Malley fights a lot. This is no different. I think Paiva is going to be one of the lowest owned fighters on the slate. I think O'Malley is going to be one of the highest owned fighters on the slate. Perfect leverage. This pass, the calf kick, I think can wear it out. I'm going to be overweight on Paiva, and O'Malley, I might be even with the field, even slightly under maybe. Yes, my pick is going to be Sean O'Malley. As much as I'm dogging him right now, the skills on the feet, his volume is absolutely crazy. He showed that he can keep that pace and cardio, but can he keep that if his leg is absolutely shredded up and he's on one leg? Like, I don't know. The UFC wants him to win for sure. Everyone knows that. I think the line's wide. I think the ownership is going to be too wide. I think Paiva has a live shot, so I'm going to be overweight Paiva. But anytime Sugar steps in the octagon, it's going to be fun. I'm excited to watch it.
I mean, I think you guys broke that down perfectly because I wish it was someone else. He's going to be overowned. I mean, just look at the two guys in his range, or the chick and the Robertson 93 and Silva 94, both basically the same odds, but Sugar's more inflated than that. So it's not true odds. So I think you can pivot. I think you guys brought up great points. Maybe go a little on because you don't want to full fade Sugar either because
definitely don't do that.
If he puts a bomb up, you're going to need him. But go under though. I mean, you can go 30 or 40% Sugar and you're going to be under the field, but you still got enough to not kill you if he rolls. Play like 10% to 20% Paiva. Yeah, I think that's perfect in this fight, and it's a good way to get different in your tournaments. I thought you guys broke it down literally perfectly how it could go. I wish he would. When is he going to fight someone good, though? The thing is, he might get better versus someone good. I just wish we could see it. Maybe he won't take him lightly for once and just starch him right out of the gate.
But you know what's crazy? If you really look at it, people still consider this guy a prospect. Like, he's not a prospect.
No.
How many fights does he have?
7 in the UFC.
7 fights.
Under the UFC umbrella. I see what the matchmakers are seeing in this fight. Like, the one thing that they're seeing in this fight is Paiva a good opponent, good striking, yeah, but he's extremely hittable. That's the gap that they're looking at for Paiva. They're saying, listen, this guy's going to throw some stuff back at you. He's going to make it exciting, but he's extremely hittable. So that's what the matchmakers see here. But like I said, I like O'Malley. I love him from an offensive perspective. I'm not fully sold on him yet. But like I said, if he wins, there's upside for a knockout. So like I said, I think Zach, perfect game plan. I mean, the guy is going to be very, very overweight on the field, without a doubt. You guys just bring up great points. I mean, it could even go to decision or something. I don't think it will, but it could. You're not going to win at 9,100 if it goes to decision.
I will say there is a path to that. Like, if only 4 or 5 win, because he throws I think he's having 7 significant strikes per minute or something dumb. But I don't expect Paiva just to be, a punching bag like his last opponent was. So there is a path because of the volume.
That guy last time took an absurd amount. I remember that fight like it was 5 minutes ago. Like, he was just taking bombs and he just kept coming back.
And they stopped it with a minute left. Like, come on, at least give him the moral victory decision if you're going to let him do
Who was
that
dude? He was who did he fight in that one?
Chris Mantino, Montano, I don't know exactly.
Just an absurd amount.
I was livid when they stopped that. That reminded me of, I don't know, I know my business partner's going to give me shit for this, but do you remember back in the day when Julio Cesar Chavez fought Meldrick Taylor?
You're asking the wrong guy over here. I probably wasn't even born.
Bro, watch that fight. You guys will literally jump off your seat. It was the first time that Chavez was he was losing the whole fight. And with 1 second left in the fight, when they robbed this kid of his victory, they stopped the fight.
Wow.
It is crazy because they were letting him get just bombed too the whole fight. Like, what made him stop it with 1 minute left? Either stop it way before or just because the dude wasn't dead yet either. Like, he was still doing what he was doing for the last 4 minutes before that. I mean, he was getting starched, but still. All right, let's move on. We got what's next? Cody Garbrandt -130 versus Cachoeira France +110. And I mean, this one doesn't look anything crazy, but MadLab, what do you got in this one?
Yeah, so this is a spot here where I think people might be a little lighter on the field with Garbrandt, just because of the things that's been happening to him. Anyone who follows MMA knows that this guy has had a fallen from grace, especially with his chin. And his biggest enemy is himself, right? And my biggest gripe with him is fights extremely emotional, and that's something you can't change. And I can tell you that now, for the mere fact that this guy already got emotional with a guy he's not even fighting in the press conference. He got emotional with Sean O'Malley. Guy started going fade. Now he's got a fight that he's got to deal with on Saturday, and he's already going nose to nose with another guy. So he's very, very emotional. And the problem I don't like with certain situations like this is Rashad Evans did it. A lot of guys do this. When they lose and they start losing confidence in their chin or their skill set, they tend to look for a new home. They try to put a Band-Aid over it. Well, maybe if I go down in weight, the power's not going to generate that much and I'll be able to deal with it. So I'll go down in weight. Problem with that is if they do go down in weight, you're also sucking down more weight, which makes you more susceptible to get knocked out and makes you a little bit more chinny. But the thing with Garbrandt here is that he is naturally an undersized 135er. So at 125, it's kind of a good weight class for him. I think that his speed is going to be there. I think the power is going to translate down at 125 for him. Does the chin scare me? Of course, it always should. Does him getting emotional scare me? Yeah. If you look at KKF, this is a very quiet guy. He's not really loud and outspoken. He's already playing that game plan. He's doing this. He's getting in his face. He's trying to bring the emotion out in Garbrandt already. But in a spot like this, I think this is a spot for Garbrandt. I think Garbrandt can really, really put it on KKF here. And I'm not a Garbrandt fan, but if his power and his speed translates down to 125 the way I think it should, and he gets into even 50% of the flow state that he was against like Dominic Cruz, where he really gets his timing down, he's moving really well, I actually think he can finish KKF here. I think the power might be a little bit too much for him. So I think it's a dangerous fight. It's definitely a boomer bust spot, but at 8,700, it's kind of sitting right under that 9K range where people seem to ignore. They're going to look that he's gotten knocked out. They only remember what they want to remember, and they don't put these little nuances into the field. So I like Garbrandt here. I'll have a decent share of him in DraftKings, and I think he's a fine bet too. I think he's sitting at minus 140 right now. I think it's a fine play. And KKF's dangerous. He's very well versed on the feet, but like I said, I just think once that speed and that power starts coming at him, I think he's going to. I think he's going to become a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more gun shy, and I think as the fight goes on, Garbrandt's going to get a little more confidence and find the home at 125.
Title, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough fight. I'm definitely excited for it, highly anticipated. Move down to 125 for Cody. It's a really good fight. I am definitely a little worried about the chin for Cody, especially coming down 3 losses by knockout. I think the power is still going to translate, though. The fight that I can't really get out of my head is the Rafael Sanso fight, where Cody wasn't looking good pretty much the first 2 rounds. But then Cody does what Cody does. He finds the big one and he put him on a highlight reel. That fight scares me a little bit. Rob Font, I'm throwing that one out the window. We know how good Rob Font is, that jab. He was at a reach disadvantage. Yes, Aldo showed power showed that his power was too much last fight, but I'm not really going to knock down Cody from that Font fight. It's a really close fight. We had minus 180, 155. Garbrandt opened as the favorite. Now it's down to minus 130, 110. So there is money coming in on Kai Kara France. And then you look at DraftKings, it's 8,700 Garbrandt, 7,500 Kara France. So I agree with MadLab. I think Cody Garbrandt is going to be pretty low owned or lowish owned in that range. He has upside for a knockout. I wouldn't completely fade. I'm going to have some Kai Kara France, and I'm going to have more Kara France than I am Cody with that 1,200 price difference, plus 250 to end inside the distance. Kai Kara France, he doesn't talk as much. He's quiet, but the guy's a good mixed martial artist all around, as he's shown. I think if he drags us into deep waters against Cody, he can get it done. Really close fight. I'm not betting it personally. Cody has upside. He's going to be a little overlooked. That 1,200, though, when I like some of the others in the top tier, might be a flaw of mine, Big T, but that 1,200 in a close fight, it's hard to say no. So I'll have more Kai Kara France and hope he gets it done.
I like it.
I got my third prediction of the night coming.
Lock of the night.
Yeah, the third one. I'm going against my boy MadLab though. KKF. I'm going KKF in this one. Garbrandt, man. Every time I've seen him, the funny thing about MadLab too, you gave all that info, And you talked me into KKF, and then you picked Garbrandt. It was like that other fight you said I picked against you. What you said made me like KKF, and then you went the other way. So it's funny how I used what you said. But I don't know. I just think Garbrandt, I mean, losing 4 out of 5, he's talking shit to Sugar or whatever, like you said. I don't know. I like the price on KKF, so I'm going to go there.
I agree. I listen, like I said, you play the question mark sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think Garbrandt might just be dusted up. You brought up the best point for me. Like, when they start losing, it has to get in their head a little bit.
Of course.
I mean, when you've lost 4 out of 5, like, you can't tell me they're still just as confident as they were. There's no way. I don't care who you are. You have to lose confidence. I think it has to hurt him, but God, look at this next fight. There's no way I can pronounce this person's last name, but we got Jeff Neal versus Santiago Ponzinibbio.
You're close than I
How
thought.
bad was it? How do we pronounce it, Title? Go ahead, talk to me about this fight.
Santiago Ponzinibbio against Jeff Neal. Well, so the first thing I wrote in the playbook is people that have to know. Last week, Jeff Neal got charged with the DUI, possession of
last week he got a DUI?
Last week. And it's like, so I don't care about the possession of firearm. It does nothing for his fighting. But what are you doing getting, I mean, people have a few drinks. I don't know, but we don't know what night he had. But what are you doing getting a DUI a week before fighting? I mean, that's a red flag for me a little bit. I was on Jeff Neal before against Ponzinibbio. Jeff Neal lost his last 2. Wonderboy Thompson, though, we know what stylistic problems he presents. And that Neil Magny, he's just always in your face. He's throwing volume, getting you on your back foot. This is a different matchup against Santiago Ponzinibbio, who primary striker, but it's more at range. It's more at kickboxing range, where Jeff Neal, he excels. He carries a ton of power. He's better when he's not fighting off his back foot. I think they're trading. I was high on Miguel Baeza. I still kind of am. He put it on Santiago bad in the first round. Those leg kicks were really wearing on him. Then Baeza started slowing down, and I was impressed to see Ponzinibbio in that second and third round. He just showed his toughness. I mean, he's a veteran. He's dealt with some injuries, came back though, but he showed heart in that fight and absolutely put it on him, which I did like to see. Close fight. The line went from pretty close to Ponzinibbio as the favorite after the DUI stuff. And now it's kind of went back, and Jeff Neal's got some buys. So it's kind of sitting at a coin flip fight now. I'm going to go with my original instinct before I heard about the DUI in Jeff Neal. Thinking again, it's a kind of buy low spot, 2 stylistic different opponents. Pretty tough and Magny. And I just think Jeff Neal, if this fight's at range and Jeff Neal's power and he can mix it up with his kicks, he throws a lot of power. Very close fight, 8,200, 8,000. I'm talking about the mid-range where I want to get over White on those 2 fights, why I faded the other ones. It's minus 190 to finish. If this fight goes to decision, you don't want the fight because I expect it to mainly play out on the feet. I think one of these guys, though, fall. They both have power. They both can finish. My pick's going to be Jeff Neal, but confidence is probably the lowest on this whole card for picking Jeff Neal. So I'm excited to watch it, though.
This fight looks like an absolute banger just looking at the history from these guys. But MadLab, what do you think of these guys? I mean, these dudes, they look like 2 good fighters to me. What do we think?
Yeah, the thing with Ponzinibbio is before he left, he was on a little bit of a break. Before he left, everybody was high on this guy. And then when he came back, I put a little bit too much faith in him, and he ended up getting knocked out. And on the swing, when he came and fought Miguel Baeza, a lot of people were on Baeza in that spot. And I kind of stuck with Ponzinibbio because I know that he's a timing fighter, and I know he needs to get his timing down. I know what he's capable of. Right. So I picked Ponzinibbio and it worked out, but it was a brutal fight. I was on your side in the beginning. I was kind of leaning towards Jeff Neal because he does have that equalizing power and he's a good athlete and stuff like that. But I've been a part of a lot of camps and I know the discipline that it takes. I know guys that you hear about guys going up to Big Bear and they're living in solitude for 12 weeks. I know guys who, completely abandon their girlfriends and stuff like that. So when I look at this, I say to myself, it's not so much that you went out and you had a couple of drinks. The fact of the matter is you had plural drinks, which means you consciously had 1 or 2 drinks. I don't care if it's a holiday or not. How serious are you taking your camp? I said on my show with my partner, I said, if I was ever training you or I was training somebody, like I had a girl flying from New Mexico for the Abu Dhabi trials, Michelle Mills, that I trained. And I mean, I was so strict with her to the point where if she ever even went into my alcohol cabinet and touched the thing of alcohol, I would send her home. So like how serious and what have you been doing leading up to the fight? You're on a 2-fight losing streak, which means your pink slip is kind of sitting there a little bit. They're kind of starting to debate whether or not, listen, what is this guy? Is this guy just a flash in the pan or what? And you're actually going out to dinner and you're actually having drinks. So where really is your mindset? That kind of turned me off a little bit because someone like Santiago Ponzinibbio, he wants this. He really, really, really wants this. He wants to be a fighter. This is what he does. You can see how enthusiastic he is. He's obviously pretty well-rounded. He's talented. So as much of a close fight as it is, because I'm not behind the doors with Jeff Neal, I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know why, if it was a one-off, like it was a holiday, so people say, it was a one-off. But the fact of the matter is, if I'm training for a fight, or any of the guys I've ever trained nutrition and stuff for a fight, if I ever found out that these guys even took a sip of fucking alcohol, that would be it. I'd say after this fight, I'm done with you. Like that's it. So that does bother me a little bit. Also, he did get caught, and the lead up now to this is, where is his mind? Is he nervous about getting in trouble for the DUI? Is he dealing with lawyers and stuff like that during the buildup and worrying about a fight? Where Ponzinibbio is a little bit more laid back. He's ready to go. He knows he's got one leg up on him right now, mindset wise. So it kind of steers me in the other direction a little bit. I do think it's a super, super close fight. But because of all the things all the unknowns I don't know with Jeff Neal right now, I got to lean towards Ponzinibbio a little bit. But I think it could be another Miguel Baeza fight. I think it'd be an absolute war. I'm just leaning Ponzinibbio a little bit. I think when push comes to shove, he's going to be able to right the ship. So, close fight. Like I said, I was on your side in the beginning. And once all this came out, there's just too many unknowns for me to pick Jeff Neal here.
You think it finishes or a decision?
I'm thinking one of these guys finish each other.
Yeah, cool.
It looks like just a total banger to me. I mean, this fight, it's good, right? I'm not misseeing it. Like, it looks like a total banger.
It's a good
fight. I think the early upside for a finish would be Jeff Neal. If it were to end early, I think he'd be the guy to finish it early. I think Ponzinibbio would be the one to put the pace on him, load him up with a little bit more volume, and finish.
What weight class is this?
This is at 170.
Yeah, 170.
Welterweight, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it goes to the later third rounds, he might be feeling that booze for sure. And we've seen Santiago. I agree with that.
I'm excited for these late
fights. Start burping up the cheese olives.
Let's move on to the two big dogs. Obviously, the first one we got Nunes minus 1,000 now versus Pena plus 650. The question with every Nunes fight, can anyone hang with her? Can anyone have any chance whatsoever? Nunes will be the highest owned on the slate for good reason, minus 1,000. I'm under the belief a lot of these fights could go either way. Take the free squares when you get them and try to plug in the rest after. Unless one of you guys can convince me not to, that's what I'm going to do tonight. But MadLab, let's start with you. Does this chick have any chance to hang with Nunes at all?
I mean, anybody. It's a fight. Anybody has a chance. I mean, we've seen it so many times with guys like GSP and Matt Sarah. Like, you can have that moment where just the stars aligned and you catch the person. That's it. But the chances of her, this would be one of the biggest upsets of all time. Anytime Amanda Nunes fights, if she loses, it would be one of the biggest upsets of all time. She's the GOAT for a reason. And the thing I keep going back to is the only thing with her is I always go back to sometimes she lays off. She will just look to get some cage time. It'll go to decision. But ever since Pena started going in on her verbally, she wants to prove a point now. This is a point of the matter. She knows she's going to win the fight, but now she wants to put it on her. I think she can get it done anywhere. I think she can get it done on the feet. I think she can get it done on the ground. I think anywhere this fight goes, she gets it done. So it's basically not if she gets it done, how she gets it done. So this is a play that I did not put any kind of a wager on, but it's interesting to think about because I don't, Zach, maybe you can tell me what the odds are. But if you look at Juliana Pena's game, what is she? She's a grappler. This is what she likes to do. She likes to grapple. You piss off Amanda Nunes. She's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too. She just doesn't show it. She may want to say, you know what? I'm going to take this girl to the ground. I'm going to show her what's up, and I'm going to finish her at her own game. So I don't know how it's going to go, but a small sprinkle maybe on Amanda Nunes by submission isn't
plus 420.
Isn't out of the realm of possibility.
Plus 420 on FanDuel.
So I didn't put a play in on it. It's something that I'm tinkering around with.
What's plus 420 to win by submission?
Nunes by submission. She's minus 250 on minus
It's
165.
minus 1,000 to win, and I can get plus 420 on a submission.
I mean,
Correct.
chances are she's probably going to knock her out.
Plus
But
420 though is amazing. Like,
I
that's
like
an
it.
amazing price.
if she has that mindset, like you want
Yeah.
to talk shit to me, I'm going to beat you at your own game.
That
Yeah.
could easily happen. I could see that happen. Okay,
course.
bitch, you're gonna talk to me. Let's go down and let's handle it.
Yep.
I'm right. That's a good bet. I like
that.
Plus 420. I mean, you got you can't bet minus 1,000. Like, that's
No.
just a stupid bet. You might
No.
as well take a chance at plus 420. Who knows?
Yeah.
I love your reasoning. I freaking love that bet. Title, what do you think of that? You like that too?
Yeah, I mean, what I put on the playbook was the question of man is it going to be KO or is it going to be submission? You can't bet minus 1,000. It was minus 300 inside the distance for a little while ago. Now it's like minus 330. She's finishing this fight. I would be shocked to see it go all 25 minutes. Pick your submission or TKO. I put in the playbook, my guess is KO, but it's minus 150 for KO plus 425, whatever submission. There is definitely value on that side. So I think that's a great call by MadLab. I mean, Pena's a grappler and stuff. She ain't on Amanda Nunes level in grappling. I don't care what she is. This fight's going to be ended. Nunes is going to end it. And yeah, I like that submission call. She's going to be popular. She's going to be popular for a reason. If you play Nunes, just get a little different with your Nunes builds. We always talk about leaving money in MMA and stuff. So Nunes buy whatever she wants.
I'll give a crazy take too, and Title's the cash guy, but at 6,500 for Pena, I don't think it's the most insane thing ever to
Stay
throw
away
her.
from it, Big T.
He said that about Megan Anderson,
And she
too,
got smoked. I know.
And
I
he played her, and she got 1 point.
I beat you that day though with her, I think. Or do we
Wow.
not play that day?
No, we definitely played. I don't know if you did, but if you did, that's
whatever. I
embarrassing.
mean, I know that it could be crazy, but it depends on what it gets you. If it gets you like 4 or Title, when you take 2 losses out of the gate, how's that worse than taking a 6,500 that's going to lose?
Because my losses, I'm at least expecting like 6. Like when Nick Diaz.
What
lost,
happens when they
60.
don't though? What when they lose right away?
Then I lose. But I know what Pena is going to get me, and that's not what I want. I'm not. I can go Cachoeira. I can even go like. There's other live dogs.
Yeah, but the
7K.
like 400 or 500 helps though. The extra 400 or 500
Well, you're
salary.
I'll give a freebie. You're already stacking in cash games. Oliveira is 7,600. Poirier is 8,600. So you already don't you don't really need it. I've built some teams. I wouldn't do it today.
If I were to crystal ball, there's 2 ways, like to tell you how it's going to go down. I could either see Nunes putting it on her backing up against the cage, her shelling up and getting the knockout, or I could see her stinging her with something. Juliana Pena going for a desperation shot because she's stung, and Nunes cinching her up in the submission. That's the 2 ways I could see it happening.
Yep. I got you guys for sure. Let's move on to the main fight. I mean, just an absolute stud fight. One of the ones we've been looking forward to for however long it's been booked, since the McGregor fight, really, I guess. We got, what's the current line? We got Poirier minus 135, Charles Oliveira plus 115, 2 studs, 2 monsters, absolute banger of a fight. Title, I'll start with you. What are you thinking here?
What a fight we have. I mean, this one's there's no way this doesn't live up to the hype. This is going to have 100% of this fight. It's going to absolutely deliver. I'd be shocked to see it go to the scorecards. 2 guys that just know how to finish, skilled everywhere. On the feet, I think Dustin has the advantage. He has more volume, can put the forward pressure. But as I put in the play, Charles Oliveira, his striking has developed leaps and bounds from when he first started. I mean, even recently, fight to fight, he is dangerous on the feet. We saw him knock out Michael Chandler, but Michael Chandler was slowing down a little bit. But he is technical. Those calf kicks are nasty. He mixed it up at all 3 levels. On the ground, Poirier is a stud on the mat, but there's levels to this on the mat. And Charles Oliveira is on a different level, I think. His wrestling, as he showed, he can float on the mat. Not every good grappler has good wrestling, so they can't always control the fight down there. Charles Oliveira has very good wrestling. I think he can control the fight. We haven't really seen people try and take down Dustin Poirier. Yes, we saw Habib do it. Habib. Don't even need to really talk about that. But we haven't seen too many people try. I expect Charles Oliveira to try and take this fight to the mat. I do think he has some success taking it to the mat too. And if he can find, if it's on the mat, he's live for a submission at any time. And on the feet, he's dangerous. I put in the playbook. I would not be surprised if he knocked out Dustin Poirier. It might sound crazy. I think Charles Oliveira is that dude. I made the biggest bet in my life last fight against Chandler. Yes, Poirier is better than Chandler. I just think Charles Oliveira is on this winning streak, on this finish streak. And then Dustin Poirier's beat Dusty. People won't like to hear it. Conor McGregor twice in a row. I think the line resembles that a little bit. I think it's a coin flip fight. Dustin Poirier, complete stud. Charles Oliveira, complete stud. I'm getting a $1,000 decrease. Someone that just absolutely has looked like a killer. I think he's more dangerous. People might not agree, and that it's really, really high level fight. Give me Charles Oliveira and the dog in this one. I've been riding him. He hasn't disappointed. I love what I see. Charles Oliveira by submission for me.
Such a good fight. MadLab, what do you think of this one?
Such a great fight. I mean, really is such a great fight. You know, from a stylistic perspective, you know, the thing for me is when you look at Charles, I go back and I say don't go back, but there's certain things I go back on. And when it comes to like your genetic makeup, that's things I go back on. And as great as Oliveira looks, I mean, the guy, the 7 fight, I mean, he almost looks unstoppable, right? The guy looks not even human. But the fact of the matter is built, he has a fiber in his body that he quits. And it's just, that's something that either goes dormant for a while or maybe, and comes and rears its head, or maybe it never comes back. But he has shown that when push does come to shove, he tends to shell up and quit. And if you watch the Michael Chandler fight, he started to shell up a little bit. He went down to a knee. So he started going back and forth. He started to kind of shell up a little bit. He wasn't looking for any kind of ankle picks. He was just kind of survive. Chandler did a big mistake, you know, in my opinion, in that second round, where he obviously got caught. He started running away. He actually probably could have finished that fight if he wanted to, but I was on the wrong side of that. I picked Michael Chandler, mistake on my part. He passed the test, but there's certain fighters that know how to bring that quit string out in you. Chandler's not that guy. A lot of the guys Oliveira has fought as of late aren't that guy. Justin Gaethje is that guy. He's the type of guy that's going to take you into deep water, and if you have that quit string in you, he's going to dive in and he's going to yank it out of you. An old school Tony Ferguson, not today, but an old school Tony Ferguson can pull that string out in you. And Dustin Poirier is that guy that's what he does. I mean, that's what Dustin Poirier does. Dustin Poirier sells you false pretenses, sells you this false confidence, and he gets better as the fight goes on, I know exactly what Zach is saying about the, you know, false narrative with Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor's completely washed, but you can't completely nix out the Justin Gaethje fight. For sure. You know, he went into them deep waters with him. You know, he's been in deep waters with guys like Eddie Alvarez, who was known to go into those deep waters. I'm not so certain that, you know, DeBronx is able to do that still, you know, and I think from the momentum shift that he's on, this fucking dude can submit anybody. And I agree with you. I do think he can knock him out too. I just think what's going to happen in this fight is I think they're both going to give each other a little bit of respect. Dustin Poirier is going to give him a boatload of respect in the beginning of the fight, especially when they're dry. And I think if this fight makes it to the 4th and 5th round, I think you're going to see vintage Poirier. Poirier is going to end up knocking him out. He's going to end up shelling them up. He's going to end up, you know, hitting the mat at some point. And Poirier is going to be smart enough not to even keep his ankles in space. He's going to back him up. He's going to let him stand up, and he's going to finish him off. So I think the later this goes, you're looking at Dustin Poirier as a knockout. The earlier it is, if you're telling me it's a first round finish, I'm going to tell you it was definitely Chucky Olives, you know, submitting him. But I'm going with Poirier here. I like what he said in the press conference where he said, you know, destiny never lies. You know, I really do believe this dude is destined to be a champion. I think he's done everything that it takes. People that are giving him shit for taking the Conor fight, that's ludicrous. That's money. You got to support.
Yeah, that's definitely ludicrous for sure.
You know, you got to support your family. At the end of the day, you're fighting for legacy and stuff, but you're putting your body on the line for money. And the way Dustin Poirier fights, this guy doesn't fight carefully. He's not a Floyd Mayweather. He fights very dangerous. And, you know, we don't know how much more time he has left. But this dude is just he's the poster board for a complete, well-rounded warrior. And he does have, believe it or not, don't be surprised if, you know, I think it'd be a foolish mistake. But if they're dry, he's known for jumping guillotines too. And we have seen Charles Oliveira submitted. You know, his grappling game is no way near on the level of Charles Oliveira. And I would highly recommend him not even to attempt it. But if this goes into the 4th and 5th round, I'm going to say that I'm going to say Poirier knocks him out. But on the DraftKings perspective, You got both of these guys hold value. You got Oliveira 3 of 10 times, 100+ points, not that great. But at his current market value, he's hitting 8 of 10. So he's in at an 80% clip. His current market value, you got Poirier has hit the 100+ mark 8 of 10 times, and he hit his current market value 8 of 10 times. So both of these guys at their current market value is sitting at 80%. That whoever wins this fight is without a doubt hitting value.
Yeah, it's going to be like very, very hard for the winner of this one. Sometimes you can see it in the main that the winner isn't on the ultimate winner, but man, I don't see it here. Whoever wins this is a borderline lock to be on the win. The only way I could see it is if somehow it was like a really quick finish where there just wasn't just a fluky knockout right away that outside of the minute, obviously, that would somehow do it.
Well,
I don't see it.
We saw with Sterling Yan. I mean, it was going to break the slate, and then
that was like, don't even get me started on that one. I mean, what in the world was that? I mean,
it's a perfect example of a guy who just couldn't dial in his conditioning.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I thought you guys broke it down great. Let's polish it up with, I don't know, pick 3 each. So three we like or something. You guys good with that? I can give my 3 because you already know them.
Say 3 core plays.
Yeah, I mean, just 3. I mean, not even DFS. Why? I mean, they can give whatever, like 3 bets stances. You guys like.
Okay.
I'll give my 3 while you guys look. I'll go back. I already said them, but I'll go with Hall by sub plus 150, Blanchfield just to win plus 120. KKF plus 110, and then so I'll give 4, and then the Nunes plus 420 sub. So all 4 of my bets have plus juice. I like those. Yeah, Hall sub plus 150, Blanchfield plus 120, KKF plus 110, Nunes by sub plus 420. Title, just give me 3. Your favorite 3 bets or DFS, whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
Silva round 1 plus 160.
Oh, I do like that. Plus 160
on FanDuel. Minus 110 on DraftKings, plus 160 on FanDuel. So make sure to always price shop.
I like that a lot.
Catch a beating, I put plus 60. It wasn't a full unit inside the distance, but I think plus 60, there's some value on that. And then I'm going to tail MadLab a little bit. I think that plus 450 or 430 or whatever I said, Nunes by submission. I mean, a minus 1,000 favorite, and I think it should be minus 2,000 or whatever. You're getting that kind of value there. I'll say that as my third one. I think there's good value on that.
I like it. What do you think, MadLab?
I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but I like Garbrandt at minus 140. You know, like I said, everything. I'll put my faith in him. You know, in this fight at 125. So I like that. I like Poirier, man. I know that the line is a little bit juiced for him. You can look at it a couple ways. You can look at the fight just going inside the distance, and if there's too much juice on either, you know, for that, you could actually tie that into a parlay. But I do like Poirier, and I would say, you know, I'm going to go Hall. I'm going to go Ryan Hall. I think Ryan Hall gets it done.
Our boy Hall's he's gonna get the tapper off one of those ankles or something.
And then that bonus sprinkle will be the Nunes by sub.
I think that's gonna be the big dog for us that we talked about on this. A plus 420. I really think it's gonna happen too with how you said it. She's gonna want to show her who's boss. Go to it. I love it. But talk about your stuff one more time. $25 the rest of the month, MadLab. Where do they sign up? Tell them about it real quick.
Yeah, so you go to the MadLabMMA.com. It's $24.95 for the rest of this month. You'll get full breakdowns. You'll get DFS. You'll get the wagering. We're also offering this is a free part of it, but I throw some NFL stuff in there. No DFS, just a couple wagers. You get a full live stream, private podcast, private Discord. It's basically all we do. Fight metrics for every single fighter. You'll see like an image of the fighter, everything about them for every card. So it's just a good community, man. If you're into combat sports and you like boxing, we cover boxing as well. I'm a big boxing guy. So it's just a full combat sports site. If you guys are into that, definitely come over and check us out. And you can follow me on Twitter at MadLab MMA.
Awesome. Title, talk about what we got over on the Run Pure site.
Got the playbook up, got the core plays up. I'll be in Discord. We got lock in 4 hours. Should be a bunch of fun. So I'll be in Discord. anything changes, I'll let everyone know after. I mean, Blanchfield, I don't know, big team. Maybe I'll look at my numbers, maybe get a little piece.
Just put the under. Go from fade to just under for me. Make it an under play.
I might have to, yeah. Make sure, everything's up on the site, though. Appreciate MadLabs coming in. It was, 2 hours of fights on a huge card, last pay-per-view of the year. Should be tons of fun. Big T, you might need to start hosting more. And
say that name. Say that name.
Magomed Mustafiyev. What's his name? How do you say it?
Magomed Mustafiyev.
I'm sure there's some just names I could totally butcher as we go.
You're lucky it's not one of those Fight Island cards, the Dagestan. That card would give you problems for sure. But
some of them are brutal for sure. But I think these guys gave you all kinds of winners. Great info. Check out the site too, Run Pure Sports. Like I said, we got the deal with SaberSim now. Use the code SABER15, 15% off for life. Any package too. So check it out. I think it's awesome.
Hit the like button.
Anything, these guys provided great winners. So hit that like button. I don't know how people wouldn't have liked this show. You guys gave so much good info. I took a bunch of notes. I'm ready to pick some winners. And more than anything, let's ship tonight. Let's ship some money. Let's ship a contest. Thanks a ton for watching. It was a lot of fun. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.